The time is now 6 p.m. Our regular City Council meeting for December 8, 2020 is now in session. Councilmember Hayward will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Everyone bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to make it here safely tonight. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself. Thank you for sustenance and for friendship. Lord, I come praying for the health of our city in this emotional time. Allow us to remember that we can face this and overcome it and be better for it, knowing that you are in control and at the end of the day we find peace in you. Father, I pray for the families in distress, that they can come to focus on you and know that you will grant them hope. Now, Father, I want to thank you for the city staff that work diligently to try and make the city run as smooth as possible. Father God, thank you for our first responders who are always putting themselves before others and protecting us from danger. Lord, please put your strong armor protection around them and keep them safe from harm. I pray that they and their families will feel your presence. I pray you will give them the wisdom and care they need to carry out their duties and place in their hearts the words that give them encouragement that they need. Lord, protect our military members that are serving here and abroad, that are protecting our freedom. Also, continue to watch over and bless our business owners as they are still dealing with the effects of COVID and give them hope for the future. Lord, I pray for this agenda set before us tonight, that you give us the keen sense of understanding to make the right decision, not just for today, but for the future of the city. And in closing, Lord, I want to say that when we leave this place, that you watch over us and keep us until we meet again safely. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember Hayward. Welcome guests. Special announcement, council and guests. While seated, it is perfectly fine to remove your mask or while speaking at the podium. But as you approach the dais or depart the chamber, we respectfully ask that you place your face mask back on. We'll continue with presentations. Our city manager, Dr. Brown, has a few presentations. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, City Council. It certainly is my pleasure tonight to be able to present our service pins to 4 of our outstanding employees, and as our habit is, we recognize our long-term employees by presenting their service pins at the City Council meeting. So tonight we have 4, and these are, we have 3 20 years, excuse me, 2 20-year and 2 30-year service pins to award. So we're very, very proud of them. So first, I'm going to start with Martha Amesqua, and Martha is here virtually with us. Good evening, Martha. It's very good to see you. And just a little bit about her background. She's the accounts payable coordinator for the city. She basically pays all of our bills. She started at the city of Schertz in 1998, August 1998, as a finance clerk, and has stayed with us in the finance department ever since. She was born in San Antonio and is a lifelong resident of Schertz. She graduated from Blessed Hope Academy, attended St. Philip's College, and she's currently certified in accounts payable and payment reporting. In 1998, she married her husband, Ron, and they have 2 dogs, Pollyanna and Penelope. And her hobbies are she enjoys gardening, shopping, home improvement, and traveling. So Martha, on behalf of the city, we certainly appreciate all that you've done, your great service. We look forward to many more years with you here in the city, and you're certainly a great contributor to our program. And we'll actually give you your pin in the future when we can be together. So thank you. Martha, did you want to say anything?
You said you were
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you could be with us tonight. All right, so our next one is Brian Timmons. And Brian, would you come up, please? Brian is another 20-year service pen. He started in August of 2000 as a street worker 1. 2 years later, he became a street worker 2 in the traffic control department. So Brian is our traffic light expert. He does a great job with that. And he is currently a street worker 2, and he also leads our sign shop. So all those fine signs that we do here in-house and all the vehicles that we apply our signs to, Brian is responsible for that. So he does a fantastic job with that. He was born in Eagle Pass, Texas. He graduated from Rio Grande City High School, Laredo Junior College, and he's got a 2-year certificate in industrial welding. And he holds a welding certification with the National Welding Certification Bureau. He's been married for 26 years. I really appreciate you, Brian.
Have to keep her happy.
Absolutely. I know the feeling. And so, Brian, it's my privilege. Thank you again for your great service. And you do make a real significant contribution to our city. And it's my privilege to award you your 20-year pen.
Thank you.
One other thing about Brian is that it's his birthday today.
Dr. Brown, if I could say just a few words.
Absolutely.
I've had the pleasure of working under 3 great public works people. And the last one, Ms. Williams, it is an honor to work under your supervision. I see the public works headed in a great direction. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, Dr. Brown, and of course, all my supervisors for the support they've given me throughout the years.
Wonderful.
Thank you. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to our 30-year pins. First is Matt Troncoso. Matt, can you come up? There it is. If you have any family, they're welcome to come up too, Matt.
She's in the boot over there.
Oh, okay. All right. Good evening.
Thank you, sir.
It's great to be able to honor Matt, a wonderful contributor in our EMS department. Matt's had a very interesting background, 30 years of service to the city of Schertz. He began as a volunteer for the city of Cibolo Fire Department, and that was at the age of 16 through his early 20s. He went to San Antonio College Fire Academy, completed the EMT and paramedic course. Initially, he was hired in the City of Schertz Public Works Department by Johnny Birschwall, and he stayed there about a year, and then he moved over to EMS. He was born in Seguin, raised in Cibolo, on the land where the Crescent Bend Park is now established. So I think that's really interesting. He's the oldest of 8, 6 boys and 2 girls. He went to school in the SCU CISD, and he graduated from Clemens in 1981. He also graduated from the San Antonio Fire Academy in 1986. He says the achievement that he's most proud of, besides his kids, is that he never gave up on his life goal to make something of himself, and he wanted his kids to know that with hard work and determination, anything can be accomplished. A worthy goal indeed. He married his high school sweetheart in 1981, and they have had 4 children, Stacy, Aaron, Hallie, and Adam, and now he has 10 grandchildren. Way to go. His hobbies are golfing, fishing, hunting, and trying to keep up with the honey-do list. So, aren't we all? So, Matt, it's my privilege.
Thank you, sir.
To be able to present this to you. Again, I want to thank you for your outstanding service. I hope we have many more years with you. Done a great job here for us in the city of Schertz, and your service has been very meaningful, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, I know.
Floor is yours.
Real quickly, I just want to thank my family for supporting me, and most of all, my wife. And it's 2020's been interesting, so we're going to see what 21 brings. All righty, thank you, sir.
And our last one is Eber Bush. Eber. So we're doing all these now. We've sort of been saving them up, so that's why we have 4 to do tonight. Eber, of course, everyone knows Eber started his employment with the city on October 1st, 1990. He was a serviceman, too, in the water department, and he's moved up the ranks to become designated as the superintendent of the Water Wastewater Division in 2015, so he served us in that position for the last 5 years. He was born in San Antonio, also went to the Schertz UC district throughout all of his school years. He grew up and lived here in Schertz on his family farm, and he assisted his family with farming and operating their service station and motel in San Antonio. He says nowadays he likes to go to the lake, on cruises, and camping at state parks. Been married to his wife Janie for 29 years, and they have one daughter, April. Raising koi fish is one of his hobbies. That's interesting. Says he enjoys rock concerts and mosh pits and going to South Padre Island. And so he says they're beginning to enjoy RVing, and Eber will be retiring from the city pretty soon. So Eber, again, you've done a great job, fantastic work. Been a real mainstay in the water department. We just couldn't have operated that system without you. We just appreciate all that you've done these many years for the city. Don't know how we're going to replace all that knowledge that's up here, but we'll do the best we can.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations. All right, floor is yours.
I appreciate working for the city. I thank you all very much for employing me all these years and keeping our group employed during these hard times. And I want to thank my team that supports us out here, because they've been here many years with me, a few of them. Again, thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll continue with employee recognitions. I'd like to invite department supervisors to introduce their new employees. We'll start with Animal Services.
Good evening, Council. I'm Lieutenant Halberdier of Schertz Police Department Auxiliary Services Division, and I am here to introduce our new full-time kennel tech for our animal control. Her name is Rosa Lopez. Rosa was born in Florida, and she was born into a military family, so she has spent time in 5 different states, to include Texas. She is a proud graduate of Steele High School this past year in June, and her family and her reside in the city of Cibolo. She started working for us for about a month ago. She's done a fantastic job so far. She's an animal lover, a video gamer. She reads and paints in her spare time. And she has her sights set on attending college and hopefully moving into a veterinary technician program. But this is Rosa.
Rosa, welcome aboard. Mike's all yours.
Just want to say thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have engineering.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is your lucky night because you get to meet not just one, but 2 new engineers. First, we have Eric Schertz. Come on. Eric is from Marion, and he got his engineering degree at Texas Tech. While he was at Texas Tech, a fellow Red Raider here, while he was at Texas Tech, he met a girl from Seguin, and when they graduated, they came back to the area. Eric's worked at several consulting firms before getting to Schertz, and one thing he said he was interested in doing, coming to work for a community such as Schertz, is to learn and be able to work on the whole system, a whole infrastructure system, instead of just pieces of one like you so often do in the consulting world. And since Schertz is integral in the greater community, including Marion and Seguin, this is kind of the perfect spot for him. He and his wife have 2 boys, 11 and 14, who are involved in 4-H and sports. So Eric is a 4-H dad and a coach, and he also manages a small herd of cattle over there in Marion, and he enjoys hunting and fishing. So this is Eric Schertz. Thank you.
Eric, welcome aboard. Mike's all yours.
Thank you, Council. I do appreciate the opportunity to come to the City of Schertz. Like Kathy said, I spent most of my career as a consulting engineer, so I'm usually on the other side of the microphone trying to sell you something, but hopefully now I'm on your side and looking out for the best of city interests. So I appreciate the opportunity here. I look forward to breaking in our new office.
So we filled our new engineering position, and we're so thrilled to be fully staffed, and then we lost Scott McClellan to Public Works to be the assistant director. So we had a challenge. We have to find another high-quality engineer. Well, we were able to. Jennifer Shortis is here with us now. She was raised in Beaumont, Texas. She went to college at LSU in Baton Rouge, and then spent time working in consulting in Baton Rouge, Alexandria, Virginia, and most recently Thibodaux, Louisiana, until her husband, who's an Episcopal priest, was called to serve at St. Andrews in Seguin. So the timing was just right for us to find her when she needed a place around here. She has a son, 4, and a daughter, 6. She enjoys running, reading, and her favorite flavor is vanilla. She said because she's kind of boring. But I have to tell you, during her interview, I said, "So what is your spirit animal?" She did not miss a beat. She said, "A tiger, of course." So I don't think she's quite as boring as she wants to say she is. So we're really thrilled to have her, and floor is yours.
Yes, thank you all for having such a great city and being able to employ so many engineers that can work together with the consultants and make the city a better place to live. So thank you all.
Well, welcome to our team. We'll continue with inspections.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lisa Wood. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development, and we have 2 new permit technicians to introduce. So Beth and Alyssa. Start with Beth here. Beth Morris was born in Highland, Indiana, and moved to Houston, Texas as a young teen. Beth married her high school sweetheart right after graduation and started the Navy wife life that lasted 10 years. In 1997, her and her husband moved back to Houston area to the town of League City. They raised 3 daughters there. In 2009, Beth went back to college and received her first associate's degree in psychology. 2 years later, she received a second degree in mortuary science. Beth and her husband Ernie recently located to Schertz, as Ernie took a job as a contractor at Fort Sam Houston. She and her husband enjoy fishing, camping, and hanging out with family and friends. They are excited to eventually find property in the area and start a small farm. This is Beth Morris.
Hi.
Welcome. Mike's all yours.
I really enjoy the town of Schertz, and I'm really glad to be working for it too, so thank you.
Well, welcome to our team.
And now we have Alyssa Velasquez. Alyssa was born in San Antonio, Texas, and is the oldest of 3 kids in her family. Alyssa grew up in Kyle, Texas, where she graduated from Lehman High School in 2016. After high school, she returned to San Antonio, where she attended the University of Texas at San Antonio and received her bachelor's degree in business marketing in August of 2020. Alyssa enjoys going on hikes with her dog Ace, attending country concerts and the Spurs basketball games in her free time. Alyssa hopes to go back to school soon for her master's in business administration in the near future and is excited to learn more about the city of Schertz and the opportunities it holds. This is Alyssa.
Just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Next is Parks.
Mayor, council members, Dr. Brown, my name is Jared Motney. I'm your Parks Manager, and I get to introduce Larry to you. This is Larry. Larry was born in Kirby, Texas. He went to a little school called Judson High School. He had been working with the San Antonio Rodeo for 16 years. So he's the guy that stands behind the guy that announces, is what I was saying. So he enjoys hunting and fishing, team roping, and he comes from us to us from the city of Poth, which I've never been to, but I'm going to look it up now. And he worked for the Parks Department there for many years. So he's a great access to our team, and I'll let him do a few words.
Well, like Jared said, my name is Larry May. I'm a man of very few words. I'm just tickled to be here.
Oh, welcome, welcome. A man of few words, but we have a lot of parks. Welcome. All right, we'll continue with the police department.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Dr. Brown. My name is Lieutenant Roman with the Uniform Services Division. We have 2 people tonight to introduce, Danny Vincent and Eileen Almanza. I'll keep this short compared to everybody else. Danny is born and raised in San Antonio. He obtained his peace officer license at San Antonio College in 2020, this year, and he currently lives in New Braunfels with his parents. That's Danny.
Hello, City Council. Like you said, my name is Danny. I just want to say thank you to the City of Schertz and the Schertz Police Department for giving me this great opportunity.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
And next we have Eileen Almanza. She was born in Laredo. She moved to San Antonio in 2016 for the past 4 years. She's worked at Bexar County Sheriff's Office as the detention officer, and she currently lives in New Braunfels with her fiance and daughter.
My name is Eileen Almanza. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be part of Schertz now. I recently moved to New Braunfels. I'm from Laredo. I was born and raised in Mexico. So now I'm here, and I'm so happy to be part of the team. Anything you need, I'm always here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're happy that you're part of our team. We'll continue with the Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Dr. Brown. I would like to introduce our newest member to the Public Works Fleet Department. This is Jeffrey Dempsey. Jeffrey joined City of Schertz October 13th, and he's been a valuable member of our team so far. He came highly recommended from, I guess, Mr. Jared Mohite over here. You know, he told Jeffrey, put your application in, these guys are hiring. Came in for an interview, and we pretty much, right after his interview, we knew that he was going to be the one that we wanted to work with. Jeffrey was born in San Antonio, but he grew up in the Schertz-Cibolo area. He is a proud graduate of Samuel Clemens High School. Jeffrey lives with his girlfriend, and he has 3 sons and 2 daughters. Jeffrey enjoys long walks down Schertz Parkway. In his spare time, Jeffrey enjoys customizing cars and trucks. And when he's not customizing cars and trucks, Jeffrey likes to go boating, fishing, and skiing. So Jeffrey, the mic is all yours.
Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. Hopefully we can keep things rolling around here.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks for being part of our team. Next, we have Public Works Wastewater. No? Okay. And we have Utility Billing.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. I'm here to introduce Ana Miranda. She's our newest utility billing clerk. She was born in Dallas, Texas, and was raised in Texas, California, and Mexico, and lived for 4 years in New Jersey due to her husband's job. She enjoys going on long walks in her neighborhood, reading and cooking. She has 2 boys and 1 daughter, and also has 2 cats and 2 parakeet birds. She has an associate's degree in accounting and enjoys working for the City of Schertz Water Department. She speaks both English and Spanish, and she loves boots, coffee, and tacos.
First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for this beautiful opportunity. My parents were immigrants, so my mom prayed that I get this job. And I hope I can make all the customers at the City of Schertz proud one day. And I hope to one day be able to shake everybody's hands again, once again. But for now, high five to everybody.
High five.
Thank you.
Welcome to our team. All right, we'll continue with city announcements and city events, announcements of upcoming events. Ms. Gonzalez.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So to start with, tomorrow, Wednesday, December 9th, is going to be the City Council Special Workshop at 6 p.m. over in the Civic Center Bluebonnet Hall. It's a workshop to address the chip seal program as part of the 2018 SPAM program. Tuesday, December 22nd, the regularly scheduled City Council meeting has been canceled due to the Christmas holidays. On Thursday, December 24th and Friday, December 25th, city offices will be closed in observance of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Thursday, December 31st is going to be the New Year's Eve masquerade at 8 p.m. at Pickerel Park. More information can be found on the city's website, but also on our Parks and Recreation Facebook page. Friday, January 1st, the city offices will be closed for New Year's Day. And then we'll be back here on Tuesday, January 5th, for the first regular council meeting in 2021 at 6 p.m. And that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Next, announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown. Okay, announcements and recognitions by the mayor. I have none. So we'll move on to the hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the City Council. A couple of things I wanted to point out is the rules that are on the screen here. Individuals wanting to speak should have filled out the speaker's registration prior to our meeting. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes, and for the record, please state your name and address. In addition, any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks will be while addressing the council may be requested to leave our meeting. And finally, discussions by council on any subject not on the agenda should be limited to statements of factual information given in response to any inquiry. Just to clarify that point is that we are prohibited from discussing any item that's not on the agenda. We can ask a specific question, but we will not discuss any item that is not listed on this agenda. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First one is Diana Taylor.
Yes, my name is Diana Taylor, 5505 Columbia Drive. And I'm here, first of all, to the mayor and city councilman. Back in June of 2019, I spoke with your assistant city council, and then the city council brought the new city manager to our property. We've had many problems out there with the drainage problems, but they never followed up with me. Never. I have come to the conclusion with this councilman, if you are my race of that city, if you make a complaint, you're disgruntled. You all have not done anything. After 10 years, I've asked you for speed bumps. You have ignored me. But if you have one of your city councilmen or one of your people work for you, you come out and take notes of it. I don't work for you all, but you all work for us. And I also want to know if you can give me an answer tonight, because according to the Robert Rules of Order, when you have an agenda and you do not finish that, you place it on the next. They call the holding pattern. Now, I want to know, what are you going to do about the young man that the police did brutality to? And what are you going to do about Martinez, about the fake information that he provided on that family? We are a veteran, and we want to be treated like veterans. We want to be respected. We don't need you all to come in our house to say that we have drugs. We are educated as well as everyone else. So can you give me an answer? What are you going to do with the officer who kicked the young man? Would you want someone to kick your child like that? You all got to live with this. Racism is here in Schertz, and I'm here to tell you. You all have shown it, and you're still showing it. And I'm an example of one that I've asked for you all for 10 years for support. You have ignored me. You have your Chamber of Commerce husband come and speak on behalf of this family. That is wrong. That's a conflict of interest. Let's do the right thing by the people. Let me see what you're going to do about these officers who kicked that young man, who humiliate that father who's a veteran, who need respect. Tell me what you're going to do. Don't tell me you're going to put it on the agenda and it never happened. We need an answer. And I'm here to support this family because I have children. And you all know that you have children, you got to treat them with respect. You don't need to go around kicking somebody. Would you want someone to kick you all? Can you answer me that? If you can't answer me, then you all are not doing the right thing for these families around here. And I'm here to say, you all have mistreated people, and if you're black, you speak up, you're disgruntled. You all have told me, yes, the city manager. You all ignored me.
Please address the council. Excuse me. Please address the council, not the audience.
Well, he looking at me, so he was taking notes. But anyway, they supposed to be coming back to see me. I can identify all 4 of them if you need the names. I know my time is up, but I need you all to give me an answer on the young man that you all humiliated and his father as a veteran.
Thank you. Next, we have Myra Dumampias. I'm sorry, I didn't get the address here. It's a post box. I need that physical address.
You want me to say it now?
Yes, please. Your name and address.
My name is Myra Dumampias. You have your name.
Yes, yes. And the address?
And my address is the address that's listed on it.
You'll have to announce it. This is a post box. We need your address, please.
4707 Legend Point Drive, San Antonio, Texas 78244.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to. I want to just go into my 3 minutes.
I understand. Could you please slow down? We need to get the address for the record.
Can I see the written information? I hope this isn't cutting into my 3 minutes of the exact law that I have to put my home address when I don't feel safe, because what I'm about to address has to do with police brutality. So can you please give me the written law that I have to put my home address in writing when I don't feel even fully safe to even speak out against this?
This is part of our rules and procedures, so please, if you'd like to speak, please provide the address.
I'd like to speak, but I'm scared.
Please provide the address.
Can I just finish my message?
I won't let you start unless you provide the address.
I do not feel safe.
All right, let's go ahead. You may have a seat then.
Can I please just speak?
I'm just asking for the address. If you refuse to provide the address,
Facts here following those 5 rules. I don't see anywhere in those rules that my home address has to be written down on a sheet.
I'm not going to argue this point with you. Please have a seat. Please have a
I don't
seat.
see those 5 rules. where my
Please
home
have a
address has to
seat.
be listed on a sheet.
Please have a seat. Please have a seat.
I'm following those rules. I have facts and I have 2 questions.
Please have a seat.
Those 2 questions are inquiry.
Our rules and procedures.
Please let me speak.
I will not let you speak.
Please let me speak.
Please have a seat.
Please let me speak.
Please have a seat immediately.
I don't see
Now,
my home address.
will you please have a seat?
As part of the 5 rules.
I'm asking you.
Where
I'm
is the
asking you
exact law,
respectfully,
sir?
please have a seat.
Where's
I'm not
the
going to
exact
argue the
law?
point here with
You
you.
can quote the section code.
Please have
I
a
will take
seat.
a seat.
Please
but
have a
until you
seat.
can quote me the exact
Please have a-
law, I won't. I'll practice those 5 rules.
Please have a seat. Sir, if you continue, I'm going to have to ask you to leave also, okay? All right.
Sir,
Once again,
I have facts to share.
I want you to share those facts. I
28,000
want those facts. I want your
People have died in
input.
the hands of police violence. Out of that 28,000,
please-
from January 1st,
Will you please provide your
2020
address?
to May
Will
25th.
you please provide your address?
January 1st, 2000 to May 25th, 2020, when George Floyd
You need
died,
to provide your
there's been
address.
28,000 people
I will not let
who
you
died
speak
in the
unless you
hands
provide
of
an
police
address.
who are violent. Out of
Please
that
provide your
28,000,
address.
6,000 people were
Ms.
African
Blanca,
American.
could you please turn off the mic for her?
9,000 people.
Just turn off the mic. Thank you. Please, have a seat. Have a seat. Next on the agenda is Josie Garcia. Josie Garcia, if you please step up. Ms. Garcia. Ms. Garcia. Ms. Garcia. Ms. Garcia, your time is going to start if you don't come up.
Have died in the hands of police.
Ms. Garcia,
Yes, sir.
Two questions.
please, Blanca, can you turn the mic on for Ms. Garcia? And also, you did not place your address on this one. Please provide your name and address.
Apologize, Mayor. As a community advocate, I feel unsafe to put my physical home address on a sheet that is going to put my life in jeopardy while we're here begging for the lives of others. What you are failing to realize
Yeah, Ms. Garcia.
is that you are at the pinnacle.
Ms. Garcia.
You can make a sustainable change.
Ms. Garcia, we're just
Your community is crying and begging.
Ms. Garcia, we want to hear from you. We want your input, but we do need your name and address.
Sir,
Ms. Garcia.
Lord,
Ms. Blanca, could you please turn off the mic? Thank you.
to give you
Next is Mandy Moore. Mandy Moore. Ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to be respectful here. We're trying to get the meeting going as planned. The name and address are part of our rules and procedures. If you refuse to provide your name and address, then we're going to refuse to allow you to speak. But believe me, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. Council wants to hear your input, but we do need your name and address. I will not allow you to use our city council as part of your platform. It certainly does appear that. It certainly does appear that. You can step up to the mic and provide your name and address, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Please step up. Blanca, could you please turn on the mic?
There you go.
My name is Jolene Garcia, and I am the guest of Marie Bond at, what is my address that I am staying at your house?
1013 KEANNA PLACE, Schertz, Texas 78154.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you saying that you wanted to hear from me and to hear from us. One person that has wanted to hear from you was Zaki and Mr. Kevin Rayford, sir, and up until now they have not heard from you. You have the chance as a council You're hearing cries. This isn't new. This isn't new information. We have been suffering for months across this nation. This isn't something we're making up. These are facts. You have the opportunity here in Schertz, Texas, to make historical change with your policing. Historical. Who doesn't want to be on the right side of history? Where no matter what color you are, no matter what you're wearing, you don't feel for your life, you don't fear for your life, because you're a target by the very people who are supposed to protect you. You say we have agenda and a platform, and you're absolutely right, Mayor. We do. And it's justice, and it's accountability, and it's the right to be black, white, Latino, Latina, indigenous, person of color in this country, in this state, in this city, without fear or retribution of the skin we live in. I understand that you all do not understand what it's like. I understand that. One of your friends that you fist bumped earlier when they first came in here last week told one of the family members that they needed to go back to their side of town. So my question is, where exactly is that? The red lines do exist, and it's been proven here. I beg you, Mayor, I beg you, Council, I beg you, Police Chief, be on the right side of history. We're ready to work with you to make change. There are brilliant minds out there who are working on policy, workable policy that not only protects our citizens, but protects those who are protecting and serving us, and holding those bad apples accountable. You all know we don't have time. We don't have a place for the class yard bully, but he's riding out there in a squad car and taking it out on our citizens. Please join us in being on the right side of history and making changes to affect our community in a positive way. Thank you.
Next, we have Mandy Moore.
Hi, my name is Mandy Moore. My address is 1653 Santa Clara Road, Santa Clara, Texas, 78124. Last Tuesday, I attended the meeting here. I did not feel it was my place to speak, so I sat quietly in the back, listening as others made uncouth remarks they should have entirely been embarrassed by. Remarks showing underlying bias in this community. Bias that leads to the type of incidents we come to you all about tonight. One of the root causes of such bias became evident when a group of us stood outside talking a short while later. A woman walked outside with her daughter. She looked around at the group as we spread out and made a path for them. Her face went pallid. Her lips narrowed. Shaking her head, she pulled her daughter close in behind her. And she heard her steps. The girl looked at the group with obvious fear on her face. What she saw was a sea of black faces. And the nervousness of her mother. Kind of like I'm exhibiting nervousness right now. Her mother was exhibiting nervousness just by the people that she was walking by. What this type of situation leads to, even subconsciously, is the type of situation that has led us all here tonight. You see, a bias begins with the quickening of steps, the tugging of a hand, but it does not end there. This time, it culminated in the mistreatment of a young black boy and the abuse of power shown by the officers in question. This handling of the situation, or mishandling, was questionable from the very beginning. After watching the dash cam video, 3 things stood out to me. Zeke Rayford was making a right turn on a red. The officer's vision was obstructed, and they trained their guns on him immediately after stepping out of the vehicle. Can you all do me a favor? Raise your hand if you have ever made a right turn on a red light. Come on, be honest. It's okay, y'all can plead the fifth. You see, after watching the video multiple times, it is obvious the officers couldn't have seen if Rayford came to a stop before making the turn. Their vision was obscured by both stationary obstacles and other vehicles. It would appear these officers were on some sort of targeted mission that night from the very beginning. Let me ask y'all another question. I'm a white woman who has been taught to pull over only when you feel it is safe to do so. There are maniacal weirdos out there who rig their car to look official and pull over women at night to rape and kill them. Am I right? Well, I work off of corporate and travel 1518 daily to get home and to get to work. Sometimes, especially right now, it is dark on my commute. Say I accidentally run a red light over off of 1518, where it's pitch black because we don't have any street lights over there. It is... And say I wait.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Your time limit has expired.
Say I wait until I pass aviation and pull over.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Next is Leonard Moore. Next is Leonard Moore. Could you? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Mr. Moore? Leonard Moore? Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore? Your time has expired. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Leonard Moore, 1653 North Santa Clara, Texas, 78124. So I had a lot of remarks planned for today. I've gone over this so many times, changed what I wanted to say, so I'll try to make it brief. You all know what happened. Every single one of you knows what happened, and you're choosing to do nothing about it. You're choosing to sit in your chairs and pretend everything's fine, to try to silence people, to try to dismiss their view, to try and say, you know what, it's not that bad and everything's fine. A young man got pulled over. He left the scene with officers behind. He went to the closest residence he felt a shred of safety at. He was met in his father's drive with guns drawn, beaten, tased, and threatened. This isn't justice. It's vigilante justice. A police officer's job is to enforce the laws, to hold people accountable for when they do something wrong, not to make up things when they do things wrong, and not to carry out punishment for those wrongdoings. That is a trial's job. That is a jury's job. If nothing else, you can acknowledge the police officers are at fault for not allowing the system to do its job. The simple fact that you won't do that says you're all part of the problem. You can change something here. You could do something. You could stand up and say, you know what? All these people are right. This isn't justice, this isn't right, and it's not fair. And until you do something, we're all going to keep being here. We ain't going nowhere. Until you fix this, your communities, your residences, your suburbs, until you can enforce things fairly and equally, we're not going anywhere. Hold these officers accountable for what they did to this young man. If I work in fast food with one of you, and you spit on a burger, drop food, you'd expect to be fired, wouldn't you? You're bad at your job. You'd expect somebody to call you out. So why is it we defend police officers like they're gods and allow them to get away with everything under the sun when they are bad at their jobs? Yeah, there are good ones. But if the good ones do nothing, they're just as bad. Thank you.
Next is Valerie Rothfeld. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name.
Ryford, it's Sherman. Whew, I am a guest at 5504 Columbia Drive. My name is Valerie Ryford. I was here on November 10th. I saw Shannon. She was sitting right here, and she came up and gave a prepared speech about how she wanted a park for her kids behind her home. I saw that conversation last at least 40 minutes. Then I saw Zakiy's mom come up here, and she tried to bring attention back to Zakiy's situation. I saw you, Mayor, you raised your voice at her, and you banged your gavel. And then we were here, some of us back there, and we began to chant. Then I saw Shannon and her family get whisked into that corner while people were using their voices, which I'm still very confused as to why they were whisked into a corner when we all went through the same metal detectors, but you know, black people are scary. So I saw that happen. And then at the very end of the evening, when you allowed some people to come up here and speak for 3 minutes, we were standing outside and talking amongst each other, and I saw Shannon and her family get a police escort past the Rayford family. But you know what I saw immediately after that? I saw an EMT worker walk up to Zakiy's family and ask how Zakiy was doing. So I think that shows a real difference between your police department and who are they protecting and serving, and then a heart of somebody who really cares about somebody who is the victim. Zakiy was an 18-year-old child. I know you see those pictures of George Floyd. I know y'all watched a video of that man die over the summer. But yet y'all still sit here and you refuse to put it on the agenda. And you refuse to put it on the agenda because of you'll have to answer. You won't be able to sit here quietly if it's on the agenda. But yet you will sit here and talk about land for hours and hours. You have talked about land since this happened to Zakiy. But you will not put this on the agenda. And you need to ask yourself why that is, because we know why. I feel like, and I've said this before, if your furry, four-legged pet that you can feel his family, little Ruger at home, your little furry, four-legged dog, if Ruger got treated the way that Zakiy did by Schertz Police Department, we would be having a conversation about excessive force with the police. My son is 2.5 years old. My husband happens to be Caucasian, but because I am his mother, I will still have to have a conversation with my child about what to do when he encounters police officers. At what age did you have to have that conversation with your kids, David, Michael, you, Jill, Rosemary? At what age did you have to have the conversation with your kids about what to do to survive encounters with those who are sworn to protect and serve? I hope I don't get killed for being black today, but more so I hope that each and every last one of y'all get replaced with an anti-racist, good human being who cares about people who don't just look like yourselves.
Next is Sandra Kearns.
Good evening, Sandra Kearns, 416 Eagle Flight, and I'm going to begin my remarks by again asking you to put the issue of police accountability on the agenda. Please put it on the agenda so that we can have an actual dialogue. I asked that the last time. Other people have asked for it. That is within your purview. Please put it on the agenda. I did not prepare remarks this evening. However, I did want to address some things that you can do, Mayor. You have held back releasing the reports from the police officers. You made the decision to shield their files and their records. You have the ability to release it, to make it public, to give it to the newspapers so that everyone knows everything. The keys passed.
Please hold your comments. Please, a little more respect. The lady is speaking, please.
The keys passed was released immediately. He was slandered, not just in the papers, but on your SAPD, or not, sorry, wrong one, on the Schertz Police Department Facebook page. He was ran through the mud. All kinds of crazy things were said about him. That they ran a drug house, that they smoked weed all the time, that they have crazy parties. All of that stuff was said about him, and it was not true. But you blocked the release of the police officers' records. You have the ability to release them. And I'm asking you to do that, please. And I'm also asking you to put this issue on the agenda.
Ms. Kearns, my email address is ralphgutierrez@schertz.com. If you want those videos, please send me an email. I will send them to you. There's 20 videos available if you'd like to see them. Okay. Next, is that Darius? Darius, sorry with the last name. I'm bad with last names. Lamel, sorry.
Well, I am Darius Lamel, 1013 Kiana Place. I am a black veteran who recently returned from Iraq. While in Iraq, I was placed in a situation where I had to quickly decide an appropriate response to a potential danger. Before going to Iraq, I was trained how to handle such situations. I was taught the rules of engagement and proportionate force. Seeing how many police departments possess military-style weapons and gear, I would think that it's common sense that the same rules of engagement apply when dealing with the American citizens. A person can have a weapon, but that does not mean I can necessarily kill them. The same should be said for police officers. In the case of Mr. Rayford, we have an unarmed American citizen who was subdued and then tortured. He was repeatedly tased and struck by an officer's knee while on the ground. Even after he says, "Okay, I'm on the ground," he gets several more hits. He was not right to flee, but that does not make it right to execute unnecessary force. I've seen the video multiple times. I've seen the footage provided by the family. I've seen the footage provided by the police department. What I have not seen is footage of Mr. Rayford running the red light. What I have seen is a bias against the family. On March 16th, this department had an invalid warrant to search the family's home. The raid on March 16th was carried out on bad information from Officer Chris Martinez. He contacted 2 employees of the Guadalupe County Attorney's Office, and both told him he could not raid the house due to lack of evidence. Martinez then contacted Guadalupe County Attorney David Wilborn to have the warrant signed off by a judge. The Schertz Police Department has admitted he lied when giving information for the warrant. That was months before the incident on November 2nd. The marijuana charge from November 2nd has been dropped due to improper search. This department has targeted and violated this family's rights on multiple occasions. Worst of all, y'all have traumatized him. Every night he drives home from welding school, he will have the fear that he could get beat by the police. Every time he walks to the doorway of his house, he revisits the scene where he was beat. Do you not realize how traumatic it is to possibly relive that moment every time you walk in and out your house? The officers involved in the incident on November 2nd should be terminated. Officer Chris Martinez should be terminated and charged with perjury in relation to the raid on March 16th. Racial bias and proportionate force training should be implemented in the Schertz Police Department. Cite and release should be the new policy when dealing with people who have small amounts of marijuana. I mean, seriously, y'all use taxpayer money and hours of work to harass a child with a small amount of weed. And now, as a result, we have a family whose life will be forever changed due to police brutality and efforts to intimidate them at their home. You need to make amends, and soon.
Okay, this is not an awards banquet. This is not an awards banquet. Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause. This is not an awards. Being disrespectful does not help your cause. Okay. Next is Brad Ward. Brad Ward. Brad Ward. Okay, we'll continue with the next one. Marie Bonds. Is that Mr. Ward? Okay, I'm sorry you didn't step up quick enough.
You can go ahead and go. Go ahead, honey.
Okay, we'll let her speak and then we'll come back.
Okay. All right, so my name is Marie Bonds. I am the sister to Zakie Rayford. Okay, so let's talk about you, sir. I've witnessed you.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the address.
1013 Kiana Place.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all should know that. I witnessed you in here fist bump a man who told us and told Jack that we needed to go back to our side of town. Was that not true? You're not gonna answer that. It doesn't matter. Let me run y'all some numbers because that's what y'all like to talk about. As of 2018, it has been 996 unarmed Black African Americans killed by officers in the states. 2019, we've had 1,004. This year alone, as of 2014, we've already had 192 African Americans killed. There's no problem there? In the officers? There's no problem? Okay. Do you know where the badge comes from? The badges that these officers wear, they come from slave patrols. Squadrons made up to come and take African Americans who were running away for their lives, who again, are being hung and they're being raped and all things under that, and using vigilante tactics that they say that they use today. Again, this was years and years ago, decades ago, but y'all still wear those badges without knowing the history of them. Let's go back to the numbers. And let's talk about all of the African Americans that have been killed. Did y'all know that Black fatalities are 2.8 times higher among Blacks than whites? Black victims unarmed, 14.8% more than whites, who are sitting at 9.4%. The highest levels of inequality and mortality risk are experienced by our Black men and women. Not by you guys, not by you, David, not by you, Mr. Gutierrez, not by you, and not by you, Ms. Scott. Let's see. Blacks are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by a police officer in the United States. Black women, we're sitting at about 1.4%. Nationwide, do you know how many convictions it's been for these officers who have killed us, who have abused us, who have presented police brutality against us? 110. 110 officers out of, let's say, over 3,000 deaths. Doesn't add up, does it? It doesn't. 2005 to 2020, it's only been 42 convicted officers, and 11 were manslaughter, only 11. It's crazy to stand up here and talk to you guys like that because y'all don't care. You don't care. Like I said, Mr. Gutierrez, I witnessed you fist bump a whole man who told us to go back to our side of town. So I don't trust you. And I'm not going to sit up here and beg for you to put anything on the agenda because you're never going to do it. You're never going to do it. But I do say for
Thank you for your
Eric
time.
Garner,
Thank
Michael
you.
Brown, Tamir White, Walter Scott,
Mr. Brad Ward. Mr. Brad Ward. Mr. Brad Ward. Our rules and procedures are designed so that we can maintain order. Conducting yourselves in this manner, again, it's at times shameful. Mr. Brad, you go ahead. You have Mr. Ward, you have the mic.
My name's Brad Ward. I reside at 12619 Maid Marian, Schertz Forest currently. I'm here to talk about building codes and some of the compliances with them. I've had an issue ever since I started building my home at the said address. First off, it had issues with trying to get permits through the system, which took an extensive period of time. All the engineering requirements, everything that had to be stamped, labeled. It got to the point that I couldn't continue to do the job myself, so I hired a builder to do it for me. So the house was built, it's been inspected by the city of Schertz, it's been inspected by the Veterans Administration, it's been inspected by lenders. And I'm trying to get a certificate of occupancy. But here I am at the end of the process and I can't get a certificate of occupancy because of missing paperwork. Now I understand the city has requirements and they're trying to make sure that everything is, oh, how do you want to say it? Engineered correctly. But sometimes it seems that there comes to be a point when we've overdone it. My understanding is we've got a lot of builders that are getting to the point that they don't want to build in the city of Schertz because of the stringent requirements. And that's part of my problem. The problem is I'm trying to get a certificate of occupancy and I've got missing paperwork. And some of the missing paperwork concerns my foundation, an irrigation system, which when I submitted my plans, I said, I don't need an irrigation system. According to the city codes, I said I was xeriscaping. At the last minute, they said, oh, yes, you need one. Xeriscaping means rocks. I said, no, xeriscaping means drought tolerance. My house sits 175 feet off the road on 1.75 acres of land. To irrigate it today, I'd only be required to irrigate 50 feet from the house. I'm still 75 feet off the road with nothing in front of me. What's the point of the irrigation system? The engineering requirements concern my foundation. The fact that I'm supposed to have an engineered pre-pour inspection, a post-pour inspection, a cure inspection. All of this is supposed to be done prior to framing. So again, I'm running the issue of missing paperwork. The house is completed. If this was required prior to framing, how did the house get allowed to proceed to completion? So what I ask is that we somehow consider some waivers to some of the engineering requirements when it comes to construction in the city. We have our builder, like I said, we consulted a builder or had a builder finish our home for us. We've had issues with the builder during the construction phase and the completion of it, and that we're pursuing legal grounds as well because it was my assumption that he would have submitted all this paperwork to the city. I didn't even realize that the paperwork was missing until it came time for a certificate of occupancy. I've been working with the city and they've granted me a temporary certificate of occupancy pending 6 months' time to try and find the missing paperwork. The question is, at the end of that 6 months, am I going to have to move out of my house that I paid for? That's already been inspected and signed off by the city? Thank you.
Next, next is Mr. Raynard. I can't read the first name here. Raynard?
What is the name? Because you'll try to pass it up.
Yeah.
Is it Capri Rayford?
I can't even spell it. R-E-Y, it could be Rayford. Yes, it is.
I know.
I am so sorry.
So, my concern is that you, like everyone else, you refuse to put this on the agenda because you don't want to have a dialogue, because for whatever reason, you guys don't want to face
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the address.
It's 1013 Kiana Place.
Thank you.
You don't want to face reality and say, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, we need to fix it. So that is a concern and that is a problem. The other concern is my brother should have never had to move out of my father's home because he's unsafe. He feels unsafe due to your police officers. That's not fair to him. It's not fair to my dad because they have a very close bond. They're used to seeing each other every day, every morning. But now he wakes up and he doesn't get to see his son because Schertz police decide that they want to, I don't know, harass him and treat him the way that you guys did. And for you guys not to do anything is an issue. And then on top of that, we have established already that you guys are corrupt, your police department. But for Martinez to make up a false document and all you guys do is say, he's been replaced to doing something else. Like, he should not have a job, because the same way you guys want to hold Zaki accountable for his actions, for supposedly running a red light, for him evading arrest because he wanted to get to a safe place like every other person does when they're in a situation being pulled over by the police, that is the same thing that needs to happen with your police officers. Martinez, Financy, Megan, what's the other? Megan Financy, those are the same things that needs to happen with everyone else, because the same way you want to hold this young black man accountable for his actions, why aren't you guys wanting to hold your police officers accountable for their actions? You took them off the streets, so you guys feel like that's okay because they can't kick and harass people anymore? You guys feel, clearly it doesn't matter if you're if you patrol the streets or not, because clearly he was able to make false documents so he can raid my father's house. So that's an issue that you guys need to consider making some policy changes. For whatever reason, you guys are stuck in your ways, you don't want to change anything, but this is going to continue to happen. You're going to continue to see us, and it's not only for Zaki, it's for Breonna Taylor, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. It's for everybody. So if you guys don't want to see us no more, it's easy. Let's make some changes. Let's work together. You love saying this. You respect us enough to put us on the agenda and say, let's have a dialogue, right? Because you don't want us to clap for somebody saying something that we agree with, but you're okay with everyone clapping for these 20 years of recognitions in Schertz. And this same man, I sat here and watched him say last week, I love Schertz police. I feel safe here. They do a great job. But then Zaki can't say the same thing. He had to move because he doesn't feel safe. So that's a problem that you guys need to look at and say, why is it that he feels safe but the other one doesn't? But thank you.
Thank you. Jack Miller? Jack Miller?
Mayor, City Council, thanks for having me again. Man, you guys got a problem. You had a guy filming.
Name and address, sir.
Oh, Jack Miller and what is it? I think I wrote, what did I write on there? I forgot.
You didn't put anything here.
Put it in there? 1013 Counter Place. All right. So anyway, guys, I'll start over. Did my time start now, or? Okay, we're good. All right, cool. So anyway, last year, one of your officers filming a naked girl, teenager, right? And just talked to a lieutenant who said he didn't know anything about that case, but when we told him that he was on the force for 9 months, after you guys were told about the investigation, he remained on the force for 9 months, he corrected us, which indicated he did know something about the case because he knew it wasn't 9 months. So then we went to what the affidavit said from the DA's office, 6 months. Oh, we knew that was false too. You guys didn't know about it 6 months then. But he corrected us again. And then I said, well, do you know something about the case? He said, no. I said, all right, well, we do know, and we're not even going to entertain your answer. We know that he stayed on the force for 5 days after you were notified by the Texas Rangers that they had developed enough probable cause to issue an arrest warrant for filming a naked teenager in the bedroom, in the bathroom. And he stayed on the force on the streets for 5 days. He was arrested on the day he was charged. We all know that. It came out in the news. Then, last Wednesday, he got charged with some child pornography that was found in his patrol car. You guys know this. It's all over the news. And if somebody here doesn't know, just go to the news and look it up. All you got to do is type in Schertz, filming naked teen. City of Schertz, child pornography. And it pops up. Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame if you type in City of Schertz, child pornography, that information about your city pops up? Imagine if somebody searched Jack Miller and child pornography and my name and picture was all over the place. I would be ashamed. I would be ashamed of why it's there. You should be too. You should be ashamed at why when you type in Schertz, you find out also the Zeke Rayford incident, and I know there's a debate about what occurred, but we do know, if you time the lights, that when he made that right turn, his light was yellow at best. Green, not a violation of law. I gotta say, it feels good to be white. Let's give a shout out to all the black people here, as scary as they may be. Everything they said happened. It's all on my camera. The scared lady, there was more than one. The guy that said, go back to your city after bumping hands with you guys. I got all kinds of cameras in here, not just the ones you can see. Stop bumping hands with people that tell black people to go back to their part of town. Jack Miller, TX Sheepdog 72, I will catch you. My people will catch you doing that stuff, and we will see that you're gone. By the way, city officials need to be gone. Police chief. Police chief just took off. We will get that text message that he used to leave. We caught his smirks. I got to have a camera on him the whole time he was standing there. His smirks, his facial stuff in response to people talking, and that text message I certainly hope is legit. I hope it wasn't some fake message like bail me out. I'm tired of hearing this crap.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have one question. Can I have
Thank you,
just a
sir.
little more additional time?
Thank you, sir. No. No. Next.
You guys could approve that, right?
Next is Desiree Changing.
Is this what the black people need to write to feel safe in this city? Don't take me, bro. Don't. I'm all right. You're all right. Kind of like that. Thankful as a Schertz PD, though. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Council. My name is Desiree Shanding, 5227 Round Table Drive, San Antonio, 78218. I'm honored to be able to speak on behalf of the Rayfords and concerned citizens of Schertz. On March 16, 2020, Officer Martinez was given a warrant to search the Rayfords' home based on a lie. Martinez knew it was a lie. He perjured himself and should be criminally prosecuted. Because of this, the family was known to Schertz Police Department and targeted intentionally in an effort to save face. 8 months later, on the night of November 2nd, 3 officers violently arrest Zaki. The Schertz Police Department was desperate to prove that this family were criminals. It's obvious. I read it in 2 articles and made the connection. It's that obvious. You see it in here in Schertz, and you see it all over the country. Zaki pulled over when he felt safe. Then, when he saw the guns were raised to shoot him, he ran for the safety of his father. Then he was beaten, kicked, and tased in an abuse of power so violent that he is traumatized and can't drive anymore, and has completely lost faith in the people that were sworn to serve and protect him. When his father finally opens the door and is horrified at the scene, he too is threatened that he would be next if he didn't keep his mouth shut. We allow police officers too much discretion in the line of duty, and when they fail us, when justice fails us, where do we go? How much discretion should we allow these police officers when it was their malevolence on this night that caused insurmountable harm to Zaki and his entire family, who I just met 3 weeks ago? And it's obvious. It's so obvious. His family is broken, and it will get worse because he is being charged with a felony which will likely ruin the rest of his life, felony evading in a motor vehicle. I want to point to the policy of Schertz regarding vehicle pursuits. This is found in the Schertz Police Department Policy Manual under Section 8.55 under Section 3 definitions. In Part A, it says, an attempt to stop a vehicle that is not fleeing or attempts to stop a vehicle that is refusing to stop while still obeying traffic control devices and not exceeding the speed limit by more than 10 miles per hour is not a pursuit. In Part B, a serious felony is described as one that involves an actual or threatened attack that the officer has reasonable cause to believe could result or has resulted in death or serious bodily injury. There was no actual or threatened attack, and the felony charge of evading in a motor vehicle should be dropped. It will ruin his life. He is 19 years old, and he was scared and terrified, and how many times do we have to say this? This is why you need to get involved, counsel. This is important, and it's not just a key. The officers abused their position of power and exerted it over a high school kid. They deserve to be fired, and Zaki and his family deserve their lives back. I am asking that you put police policies on your council's agenda. Put a call out to the citizens of Schertz so that they can tell you the police abuse that they have encountered here. The policies are the problem. 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 The policies are the problem.
Next, Dana Aldridge. Okay, next is Fernando Hayward.
All I'll say is 2020, what a year. Fernando Hayward, 2628 Hansel Heights, Schertz, Texas. I come to these council meetings or watch them online, and I only will talk when I feel something really needs to be said. Here's my issue. Schertz acts too conservative and slow on acting on information dispense. You listen to people, but it's hard to tell because you don't make it explicit. COVID, you're seated as you are apart, place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, based upon input. The audience has got Schertz seating based upon inputs. I have a few PSAs, but first I'm going to give some bona fides so it's not assumed that my remarks are said without experience. I'm a 57-year-old black disabled combat vet with 29 and a half years of military service. I'm a graduate of a historically black college and university. I grew up in the Bronx, New York, East Orange, New Jersey, and Miami, Florida. I emphasize black because when you look at me, my skin color, that's the first thing that you see, not ethnicity or nationality. I have 2 black kids, a 28-year-old black daughter and a 26-year-old black son. Now, I know everyone's experience is different and what they're led to believe is different. Both of my kids have been stopped by or have had interactions with police while driving. My son works at night and gets home at about 11 o'clock p.m. I've been stopped and have had interactions with the police. My senior year of high school in Miami, Florida, I was picked up and driven to a homicide scene. They wanted to pin a murder on me. It was the correct household that the murder was at, but it was the wrong kid. It was my stepbrother. See, I have family on both sides of the law. I have criminals who are about that life and others who are police officers. Now, the sad thing is that the media drives perceptions. This goes to Schertz acting slow. This information can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets out of the starting block. A couple of things to clear up. I've seen my time. That said a couple of weeks ago, Schertz is not a speed trap. It gets conflated with Samba, both adjacent cities that both start with S. No disrespect to Mayor Daley, but Samba PD had a practice of ticketing for revenue. Schertz police data is online. Anyone can look. What I pulled up, 9,485 stops. Of those, 1,445 were black motorists, about 30%. Now, here's what most people don't know, maybe they do. Basically, the Sandra Bland Act, police can no longer give verbal warnings. They have to do citations. Out of those 9,485 stops, please give me 110 arrests and 3 traffic violations. Now, I'll say this.
You can stop at any moment. I'm sorry.
Black lives do matter, but I wish I talked with Mr. Rayford before. I would share with him the same thing I share with young black men and women when I worked in Houston and Austin ISDs. Here's something everyone should know, and I know I'm over my time, but I think everyone needs to know this, even the people not listening. If you feel unsafe with police, slow down, put on your hazard lights, call 911.
Hey, Mr. Hayward, thank you. Thank you.
And
thank you, Mr. Hayward. Was that?
What happened to you stopping the time? Seriously, why you're talking here?
In the meantime, I'd like to...
All right. We'll move on to consent agenda items are considered self-explanatory and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, minutes. Consideration or action regarding the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting on December 1st, 2020. Item number 2, ordinance number 20S41. Consideration or action upon a request to rezone approximately .35 acres of land from Neighborhood Services District to Main Street Mixed-Use District located at 603 Main Street, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Final reading. Item number 3, ordinance number 20S42. Consideration or action upon request to rezone approximately .35 acres of land from General Business District to Main Street Mixed-Use District located at 539 Main Street, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Final reading. Item number 4, ordinance number 20S40. Consideration or action upon a request for a specific use permit to allow the commercial amusement outdoor land use of approximately 17.5 acres of land located at 18658 Interstate Highway 35 North, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas, also known as Wiederstein Ranch, Lot 1, Block 1. Final reading. Item number 5, resolution number 20R142. Consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, approving a request for Schertz Main Street Local Flavor Economic Development Grant for 530 and 534 Main Street. Item number 6, resolution number 20R143. Consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the acquisition of Lot 1, Block 50 of Live Oak Hills Edition. Item number 7, resolution number 20R139. Consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an extension of the agreement for the management services between the City of Schertz and the Schertz Seguin Local Government Corporation, SSLGC, and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 8, resolution number 20R48. Consideration or action approving a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, approving a standard utility agreement with Texas Department of Transportation related to relocation of a segment of sewer main near the intersection of I-35 and FM 1103. And finally, item number 9, ordinance number 20T38. Consideration or action approving an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an adjustment to the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. This is also our final reading. Council, do any of the following items need to be removed for separate action? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Scott?
Number 2, please.
Number 2. Council, any others? Okay. Is there a motion to approve agenda items 1 and 3 through 9?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Scagliola. Council, any other comments? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 2, discussion item, ordinance number 20S41. Consideration or action upon a request to rezone approximately .35 acres of land from Neighborhood Service District to Main Street Mixed-Use District located at 603 Main Street, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. This is our final reading. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, you have the floor.
Yes, I was just inquiring because there were some comments, and I went through the whole packages last week with a fine-tooth comb, but upon reflection, I felt like I should address this one. The comment was, we encourage the Main Street mixed-use concept. However, emphasis needs to be placed on developing a positive environment, and several citizens were expressing concerns for guidelines to be implemented so the neighborhood remains safe and non-disruptive. And I don't think they were just talking about the noise, but, like with bars or whatever. Is that something that would be part of that, or is that in the broader scope, Mr. James?
So I would say it's related. It's probably part of the broader scope, but I will say this. The two items on here, it's this one and the next one, are both rezonings to the Main Street mixed use. Council recently amended the Code of Ordinances with regard to the Main Street mixed use zoning district, and that was to allow by right restaurants and taverns, and tavern is what our ordinance calls a bar. And so I think, if you'll permit me, I think certainly as we've tried to implement change along Main Street, and if you look at the comprehensive plan, one of the things was to try to get Main Street to not just be sort of a Monday through Friday 8 to 5, but the idea was to have some restaurants, some bars, and there's already a bar on Main Street, but greater kind of nightlife. I think clearly with that, you certainly then create issues, or can create issues and challenges between conflicts between the residents who live on Main Street presently, the folks who live behind on Exchange. And so I think that's certainly something that we are going to have to deal with as a city as we go forward to try to find that balance. So it's not uncommon that you get some rubs there, but certainly I think from a staff perspective, one of the things is our ordinance are not set in stone forever. Our policies and our programs are not set in stone forever. We've amended a couple of our grant programs a few times. And what I would say is that if there is a concern that we are getting too much of a particular kind of use, too many bars, things like that, then I think it's probably time to look at how we sort of tweak that, how we incent other kinds of uses, things like that. So it's something we hear from on occasion from folks, and I think it's something that, yeah, part of it is working with the business owners, working with the residents, and then using our whole toolbox of city, both regulation and incentive programs.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate your comments very much. I did note that there was support for this, and everyone on council knows we've been trying to revitalize Main Street for years.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things to keep in mind is that we have, prior to us creating this district, we had a mix of residential and commercial zoning, and some of that existing commercial zoning is fairly intensive, auto repair shops, things like that. And so the intent of the Main Street mixed use district was to take out the more intensive uses and sort of get a more mid-range, moderate type of use. But clearly, bars and restaurants would be allowed and occasionally get issues there.
I love that. And Mayor, if nobody else has comments, I'd like to make a motion to pass that, but I acquiesce to you on that.
Okay, motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Scott to approve ordinance number 20S41. Do I have a second? Second. I'm sorry, who?
Second.
Okay. Okay, council, any other comments? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 10, ordinance number 20T39, consideration or action upon an ordinance to extend the term of the tax incremental financing reinvestment zone number 2, Sedona/Crossvine, and expand the boundaries. Final reading, Mr. James.
Thank you, Mayor. Normally, this item would be on the consent agenda as a second reading, but we put it on the regular agenda simply to point out a change from last time, which I mentioned. As I said, Council in September approved a resolution approving the project plan, project and finance plan, the development agreement, in the interlocal agreement. A number of those actually have to be approved by ordinance, and so we're coming back with it. The initial draft of the ordinance, I think the intent was to imply reapproving that. Again, we wanted to make it more explicit, and so you've seen that project and finance plan that were approved with that resolution added as an attachment to the ordinance. So otherwise, everything is perfectly the same. Just wanted to go on record and make that clear. I will say that the
developer of the Cross Fund, which makes up a large part of the TERS, is here. This item goes before the San Antonio River Authority, or rather the project and finance plan goes to the San Antonio River Authority tomorrow, and they are a participating taxing entity, and then it's scheduled to go to Bexar County in February, which lets us move forward.
Thank you, Mr. James. Council, floor is open for discussion. Yes, Councilmember Dalla?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 20T39.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, a second by Councilmember Scagliola. Any other comments? Not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Next, we have a couple workshops. Item number 11, discussion regarding the possible changes to our current City Council rules of conduct and procedures. Ms. Dennis, I think this is a council topic. Council, this code of, well, the rules of conduct basically should be signed by council members every year, and I think that's why it's on the agenda for any projected changes.
Well, Mayor, let me explain, if you don't mind. Mayor and Councilman, thank you. You know, we have new council members since this first began. We've made a change regarding a House bill that was passed back in 2019. The purpose of this was to bring it forward because we have several new members on council to look at the current rules of council and the procedures to see if you agree with them, if you're in agreement with them, and if you want to make any changes or deletions. I mean, this is bringing forward just for you to take a look at. And if you're, if you're good with it, then with no changes, we'll leave it like it is. Now, I'll leave it open to the mayor, to lead the discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Okay, council, floor is open for discussion. Any changes you'd like to make? Do we have a consensus that we leave them as they are?
Leave it as it is.
I guess there's a, leave them as they are.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
we'll move on to item number 12, discussion regarding possible changes of our current code of ethics.
The reason why this is brought forward is because, again, we have new council members. And if you'll notice, the one that is in your packet, it was signed by the council back, I believe, in 2018. So it was not brought back in 2019 for concurrence of that council. So it's being brought back to you for concurrence with this council so that each of you, if you are in agreement of the existing one, we'll bring it forward for each of you to sign and have it on record as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dennis. Council, once again, any changes you'd like to make to the code of ethics?
No.
No, there's a consensus,
All right.
Everything's okay.
Sir, I'll bring that forward the next meeting for you guys to each sign it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll prepare both for signature from all council members. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 13, workshop and discussion related to update on the Schertz Code of Ordinance, Chapter 18, Building and Building Regulations, and our local amendments. Mr. Durant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lisa Wood. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development, and here I have Gil Durant. He's the Chief Building Official. So we came to Council today to get some guidance. Planning and Community Development is looking to, or is preparing to do modifications to the building code with the local amendments. The city doesn't have a whole lot of local amendments compared to some other locations, but we do have some. And so what we're looking to do is potentially make changes to provide less oversight to some areas. And some of those changes would reduce costs to the contractors and property owners and also gain efficiencies in the department. Mr. Ward brought up one of the items that was put in place many years ago because we had some foundation issues in Fairhaven, and we're looking to maybe potentially maybe scale back on some of those with your concurrence. So moving forward, we're just looking for some guidance from council. Currently, we are under the 2012 International Code Series. That would be the building code, residential code, fuel and gas code, mechanical code, plumbing code, existing building code. And there are a few other codes that aren't here. Fire isn't here, and then there is also a property maintenance code that's managed by the Code Enforcement Department, as well as the National Electric Code of 2020, the Energy Code of 2015, and the Swimming Pool and Spa. Those are all mandated by state, and the way our ordinance reads right now is that anytime the state adopts future code adoptions, we take on those same code adoptions. So I'm going to turn it over to Gil Durant, our building official.
Good evening, Council. Gilbert Durant, I'm your Chief Building Official. And the purpose of our building codes is to make sure that we establish some minimum qualities and requirements for most home construction and structures that are being built here, either public, business, or industrial. And the minimum codes are just what they are. We're to establish those codes, and then we go out and enforce them. Many municipalities adopt new codes and standards, as Ms. Wood alluded to. We don't have a lot here in town because I'm a big believer in most of the codes that are in there have been developed and designed to meet the minimum standards. There are some requirements for some local amendments, and fortunately with us, a lot of our amendments are now part of national laws and adopted codes. So we're reducing quite a bit of our electrical requirements because they're now standards that have been adopted by the National Electrical Code across the nation. Some of our building code requirements that we're looking at is to, excuse me, I'm sorry, not used to doing this. Some of our amendments deal with topographical features, wind loading, floods, and other things like that that are associated with how a building or a home is constructed. And those minimum standards would apply in this case for the city here, such as flood zone requirements, where we have elevation requirements, venting underneath of the structures, wind load requirements, especially if you're out down south, where we had a few structures when I first started here a few years ago, where the wind bracing hadn't been put in and resulted in 3 or 4 of the homes collapsing. We are requesting that City Council maybe look at reducing the number of engineered documents that we currently require. Our staff has become much more efficient and much better trained, and I feel that a lot of the documents that we're currently requiring are redundant in nature, and we could do away with them and still retain the same efficiency and the same quality of the homes that we have right now. And by reducing some of these documents, the contractors will save as much as $400 a document, which hopefully that savings will be passed along to the future homeowners of the city. We're also requesting that the contractor insurance requirements, except for those locally licensed, be no longer required to be provided to us. These are mandated by the Texas State Department of Licensing and Regulation, by the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners, and the Texas Council of Environmental Quality for those of the licenses that are state regulated. The state mandates how much that insurance is going to be, and if a contractor fails to maintain those qualities and those amounts, then that contractor is subject to fines or penalties administered by the state of Texas. And again, I alluded to a little earlier about some of the amendments. A couple of them here that, just for example, is the bathroom outlet requirement that I had placed into the ordinance. We no longer require that. The National Electric Code, due to a couple electrocutions or several electrocutions that have occurred, only one of which was fatal, actually has placed that in the electrical code now. And the other requirement is for ground fault circuit interrupter protection, and this is, again, a good example of why we have local amendments, is the code originally had it in 2014. When they adopted the 2017, they accidentally removed it, and in the 2020, they corrected the error and placed it back in there. And this is ground fault protection. If you're, say, working on a disposal underneath the sink, that's generally going to be a wet environment because you're working on the disposal. And if you come in contact with it in the water, it could result in bad things happening to you. Oh, sorry.
So One last thing, one of the things also to mention is that the way we adopt our building codes and the codes that we have that we enforce today, the Insurance Service Organization looks at those, and they're part of our insurance. As people get insurance in the city, they help, the way we enforce codes and the codes that we have in place help reduce insurance rates. And we actually are in the process of providing that information to them right now. COVID has kind of slowed it down a little bit, but we're in the process of that, working with them. The process moving forward was, so we're having the workshop with you today. We're hoping to get guidance. We do have a Building and Standards Commission. They provide recommendation to the City Council. And so the examples Gil provided you were items that we feel like could definitely benefit the contractors, the builders, the citizens by making changes. However, that is by approval of City Council. There are quite a few other things that we'll go through, but those were just examples just to try to get guidance from you today. We have scheduled a meeting on Monday at 6 o'clock with our Building and Standards Commission. We'll provide them a similar presentation just to kind of get them queued up for us moving forward with making amendments to the building code and adopting new codes. And then we'll start through the process. We'll start holding our stakeholder meetings with our builders groups, our contractors, the GASABA, the Greater San Antonio Builders Association. And then, again, have very in-depth code by code with what other cities do on code amendments, and provide that to them so that they can provide a recommendation to City Council. And we plan on working that through the Building and Standards Commission twice before bringing it to you. We'll have it to you in advance, hopefully, a few weeks, so you're able to review it and study it prior to just making a decision. We're available for questions. I know we didn't provide you a whole lot of examples, but it was mainly to get guidance on if you'd like us to consider, reducing some of our oversight and, or continue the same direction we've been.
Thank you. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Brown.
First of all, thank you all very much. This is something that we've been, we always need to keep up with changes, but as was stated earlier tonight, the city gets a bad rep out there, and it isn't always it's a process sometimes that causes the bad rep and not an individual or anything like that. So by keeping up with the processes, keeping them streamlined, dropping stuff that's redundant, I wish we could just do it automatically, but keep going. That's exactly the kind of things that we need to see. So keep doing that. That's my input on it. If we could take that pile down as far as possible while maintaining the standards of safety, but primarily, that's what we need to do. So thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Yes, I have to concur 100%. And I remember the previous city manager, this is ancient history, like whenever I was on the EDC with Mr. Brown, I remember John Kessel bragging about how we could build a large building in Schertz in, months, not years. Like the same Amazon, for example, would have taken at least 2 years to even break get it started, to begin to build. And here, it led me to believe that Texas is really streamlined and we're just ready for business. Since that time, and that has been some time, and I'm not in the loop to the number of regulations that have come on board or if we've changed that philosophy or that way of doing business. My personal philosophy is I like small government. I think the government is best that governs least. I love it when you said reduce the number of, if you have redundancy, it has a place, but it also, if you create a bureaucracy, then you got to live in it, and it's oppressive as heck. And so if you can streamline that, that's very good. And my last question was, can you go back to slide 10? Because I was reading it, and I got to the last paragraph, and then it switched. So it was about the insurance. So my question is, if they already have the insurance, do y'all have to call and make sure that the insurance is all that they have it, or what? I kind of didn't get the...
So the way it works when a contractor registers with the city of Schertz is they come in, they just fill out a form, and their insurance company provides us their general liability insurance, as Schertz is a certificate holder. We require $300,000 for all contractors, and so they provide that, and then our technicians actually go to the state website and just verify that they're actually contractors registered with the state, and they're able to perform their duties as a plumber, the trades, mechanical, electrical. So by reducing that to not require them to provide us the insurance, the state already requires them to provide insurance to the state. So by us going and checking just to see if their license is current means that they have insurance.
Yeah, I understand, and that says it very clearly. I just did not have time to read that last paragraph. So the time savings, I'm definitely on board with that. Thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Whitaker.
That's me. I'm the new person. No, I think this is great, and I encourage, and you're looking for guidance, so from me, I definitely want to see more of this and be as involved as possible. So I was going to, with those stakeholder meetings, is that something that council members are able to attend to? It just, to me, I'm maybe a slow reader, so I want to read through everything, and then the more times I can hear it, so if I can hear it a couple times before we get to a council meeting, it would really help me understand.
Absolutely. So they'll be put on an agenda, and one of the things that our department does, I don't know that a whole lot of people do, is we subscribe to the Notify Me section in our Civic Plus, which means that once we have meetings, contractors meetings, we blast out information to anybody who's signed up. So if you would like to sign up, we would notify you, or we can just notify council when we're going to have those meetings.
Okay.
Or at least notify Brenda and have her notify you.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember
I'd
Dalla.
like to add, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can I add one comment too? Is we do offer every month, we try to, well, up until the COVID thing started, we were offering contractors the ability to come in the third Tuesday of every month and sit down with us, and would bring in my inspectors, and we would actually train, I'd bring in outside agencies to come in and do training for us. Because it helps for me to train my staff, but it also really benefits us to help train the contractors out there to get more information. And it gives us also a chance to have a BS session. We've got a really good rapport with a lot of the contractors, and that's one of the other reasons that I'm really wanting to go out and have you all help us reduce some of the requirements, because a lot of them are redundant, and I really think that we can really streamline our process a lot.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Dalla?
I guess I'll just kind of add on to that. You know, there's a lot of things the city can do, a lot of things the city should do, and also to meet our citizens' expectations. And one of the things the citizens expect is that, you know, buildings that are built in our city are built in a safe manner. On the other side of that, we also, human nature, I think, is a tendency to try to over-regulate things and over-control things, to control for every possibility. And in reality, all it does is makes things a lot harder for the majority of the people. I think we're headed in the right direction to try to simplify things, and I think that's where we need to go with that. And just another comment, I know somebody who was recently involved with a remodeling project within the last 2 years here in the city, and he had a pretty rough time of it. A lot of it was probably because he was doing it himself and didn't hire a professional. At the end of the time that he was done with it, he said, "I didn't like Gil, but I sure as hell respected him." So, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Scagliola?
Yeah, I actually like having high expectations and setting high goals and whatnot, but I don't like bureaucracy any more than anybody else does. I like the idea of self-policing. You know, the industry knows what it's doing. They're in the business of doing business, and generally speaking, they don't want to do something that's going to distract from their doing business in the future. But I understand the need for sufficient oversight. Now, okay, we got to define sufficient, and I'm hoping that's what you're doing here. whenever you're going to do a revision like this, generally what happens is you get a roundtable going on with subject matter experts, shareholders, stakeholders in the process. Now, I identified most of the primary players. I think the subject matter experts, the people on the commission, and the senior staff here. The shareholders and stakeholders, I'm not so sure who y'all inviting to the party.
What we're looking for is for homeowners, for other business owners, other ones that have or planning on building here or have built here. If they had something that didn't work out so well, contractors come in and maybe couldn't understand some of the rules or guidelines that we provided to them. Those are the individuals that I really want to come in and have them actually put the input, because not everything we do is 100% correct. We're looking at a code that you can read one paragraph and I can read it one way and you read it a different way completely. And we are looking for that type of input. I crave it. I want that type of input from everyone.
Yeah, it is interesting. When I was doing my research on some of the city practices, one of the complaints I had is things are too subjective, you know, and even interpreting things that are out there, the interpretations are subject to interpretation themselves. So I understand what the challenge is.
There's always an exception to every rule.
Amen. And sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, I get that kind of stuff also, and I don't agree with it, but well, they give you this example and that example, and quite frankly, a lot of times there are exceptions to the rules and not the primary rule itself. One other entity I recommend you invite along with this would be the Chamber of Commerce. Set the idea out to them and ask for any input from the individuals who, because there are a couple of contractors that belong to the chamber as well, and they may have some valuable input for you. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Sure. Councilmember Hayward.
I like the idea of doing that. That way you're getting input from all the different people that are building in the area. Because lots of times we tend to get earfuls of what they think is a problem. And like Councilwoman Whitaker, sorry. I'd like to attend one of those meetings as well, just to see where it goes, if that's possible. Thanks.
All right, I think we're heading in the right direction. Keep moving forward then. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to item number 14, workshop discussion regarding the Corridor Oaks sewer line extension in preparation for the roadway improvements on FM 1103. Mr. Kell?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Charles Kim, Assistant City Manager. Beginning in June of 21, TxDOT is going to be letting the project to widen 1103. Our city utility relocations are complete. We had to finish up with AT&T here just shortly. The project scope will extend from I-35 down 1103 to Rodeo Way and Cibolo. We've contributed $2 million to this project as a city, and the overall cost of the project is about $39.5 million. Impacts along 1103, it's going to impact a number of business and residential area, Cibolo Baptist Church, Schertz Auto Care. We have an application in for Valvoline, Rancho Vista Park, Corridor Oaks, Walgreens, and McDonald's. And that's all shown here on the plat map. That is the division between Guadalupe County and Comal County. There, the purple to the white area, but you've got Walgreens. Corridor Oaks kind of splits the line there. Rancho Vista, the Auto Care, Valvoline, the Montessori Academy, and the Cibolo Valley, just to kind of give you a reference of the number of properties to be impacted. Of special interest tonight is Corridor Oaks. It's roughly 16 homes there, 1.8 acres. It is currently served by septic, which is part of the concern with the widening project. And of interest, this is where the septic system, the leach field, is in this area. Again, the expansion of 1103 conflicts with the current septic system. It must be removed from the right-of-way as the road expands, and based on Section 9078 of our UDC, it requires a connection to the city's sewer system when the residential property is within 500 feet of available sewer. The nearest connection point is at the corner of Walgreens. It's at 291 feet approximately. We need to place, or pipe needs to be placed across the Walgreens frontage. The city has already procured the easement for $34,000, and then the UDC requires the pipe to be extended across the corridor's property approximately 401 feet, and that's based on Section 2115.2 of the Schertz UDC. So the connection point is roughly there at the Walgreens. You see that. It's right there. It's actually the sewer manhole. It's 291 feet across, approximately across the Walgreens frontage on 1103. The 401 feet picks up right there and goes across. And as you saw from the plat map, it kind of divides. That's the county line right there. And so you'll see the total property. In June of 18, a commissioner's award by TxDOT went to Comal County. The property owner received an award of $343,019.93. This was based on an estimate provided by the property owner to TxDOT, $297,000 roughly dollars. Takes and constructs that pipe across the 401 feet, the sewer system, and makes those connections. There was an additional $45,616 for evaluation of the property adjustment since it was out of date in 2017, and an additional $400 for improvements to the asphalt paving, for a total award of $343,019.93. So our recommendation is that the property owner continue to make that connection based on the condemnation procedures in case is shown, and then pursuant to Section 2115.3, all lots within Quarter Oaks shall be connected to the public wastewater system. Pursuant to 2115.2, wastewater lines shall be extended across the entire frontage by the property owner. And the property owner was notified on December 4th via letter if the sewer line is not constructed, his tenants may not have sufficient wastewater service, creating health and safety issues. We received a request, and I believe the council did as well, for 3 points to be addressed by the city of Schertz, and it was to confirm the TxDOT compensated property owner for 401 feet wastewater construction. We confirmed that through a Freedom of Information request to Guadalupe County and conversations with TxDOT, that $343,019.93 was awarded, and that was invoiced on June 5th, 2018. The second request was to confirm the city of Schertz will extend sewer connection to adjacent property. This is assuming this is across the Walgreens. Again, the property owner is required to make that extension at 2115.2, given that it's within 291 feet or within 500 feet based on the code. And then provide property owner, the third request would provide property owner notification of width required for the sewer easement of the 401 feet. The sewer utility easement is 16 feet, that's our standard, with a temporary construction easement of 20 feet. So that concludes the formal presentation. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelm. All right, council, any questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Yeah, I'm really embarrassed. I had to step out to use the ladies' room, so I missed the first part of that. But was this the same one that we got copied on the correspondence?
Yes, ma'am.
What on earth are we going to do if the property owner just declines to put in the, I mean, what's going to happen? Because that seems like some time ago in June 2018, and that was before the COVID.
Yes, ma'am, that's the property owner's decision to not put that in there. If it's not put in there, there'll be a health and safety issue, and the residents will have to, but the property owner is here, Mr.
Oh, I see,
if you'd like to have him answer that question.
Yes, sir.
No, please come up to the mic.
The only person that hasn't gotten my letter is Jill. But in 2006, when TxDOT decided to widen the road, they notified the city of Schertz and said that there was this situation. And you can go on the side where they're building the houses, you know, which weren't built yet, or you can come to our side. But we do not recommend going to the subdivision side because of my septic system. So the city of Schertz wrote a letter, TxDOT wrote a letter to, what's his name, the previous mayor, no, previous mayor, Baldwin, and explained all that, and I have that letter, but the city chose to go on the side where they would build new homes. So they knew this was coming. So then TxDOT, the city approved a Walgreens subdivision, which is next to me, a Walgreens shopping center, and took away, in the platting process, land from Walgreens to build a City of Schertz street. Well, but they are also, they didn't bring the property sewer line to me. The City of Schertz has a policy to bring the City of Schertz sewer to the adjacent property. Just like when TxDOT awarded me that, City of Schertz said, oh, you need to run the sewer line, all the way to the Rancho Vista. So that's accounted for. That has to be done by me through TxDOT. But the City of Schertz policy is negated when they have to run it to me. And they did that knowing, first of all, they tried to bankrupt me. In 2010-11, there was an issue with water, rain, and TxDOT, City of Schertz had an overflow in their sewer system right across the street. And they wrote a letter to TCEQ saying, oh, we had a lot of water, a lot of rain, we're on it. Well, the same thing happened to me. Some houses didn't have gutters, they were flowing into my field. Engineers came out, we brought in like dirt, cured the problem, made berms, water wasn't flowing into my field, and the health department released me. And then, so I brought that letter here, and they said, we don't believe it. And TxDOT, the City of Schertz needs my property. There's a road planned. The City of Schertz called me into City Hall, and this happened in 2006, and said, we would need your land for a new road we're going to do. And so we already got half of it, and I got the plans. I mean, it's like this big road coming through my property, which is, could you give us this property? I said, I can't do that. I got tenants here. There was no compensation to the park or to the residents. These residents are lower income. They're Mexican-American mothers with children. They're handicapped single ladies or vets that, are on oxygen. There's just a lot of that. And so they would all go bankrupt. They would all lose their homes. They would all go bankrupt. And so the City of Schertz, the administration at that time had a plan to bankrupt me. So if they bankrupt me, then what happens is the developer buys the property. And the developer gets the property for free in the platting process. They just take it. With me, they can't do that. I was platted in 1984, so if they want my property, they have to buy it. They can't just destroy our community. They can attempt to bankrupt me. Anyways.
Well, just a minute before you continue. Did you have a specific question for the gentleman?
No, this is a little bit beyond me, so I'd like to withdraw this and leave it with the city manager, maybe the city attorney. I have no idea. This is way out of my area of expertise, and thank you for saying that. I respectfully withdraw.
Okay, council, any other comments? I have a couple questions, Mr. Kelm.
Yes.
Mr. Kelm. Yes.
Sure.
Now, the gentleman brought up information concerning 2006, 2008, 2010, but his engineering report was submitted in 2016, 2018 is when it was awarded. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. I believe it was 2017, 20.
So I would assume then the gentleman was familiar with the layout of what needed to be done at that point, if he already knew about what occurred in 2006, 2008, 2010. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, the requirement was designed by an engineer, civil engineer.
So this property owner hired an engineering firm to evaluate his situation. He submitted his receipts, and he received the exact amount that he requested. Am I correct? Okay. Would you say the city met all its responsibilities regarding this situation? Okay. Would you think that if we decide to oblige his request, would it be fair to the other business owners that recently built in Schertz along 1103? That would be an unfair advantage to those business firms, I would believe.
Yes, sir. So we have a number of property owners, as I shared, and so if we were to, if council said, let's go ahead and put this line in as an expense to the city, we would have to do about 2,000 feet. That's what's shown here. It would be across the Walgreens property, Corridor Oaks, Rancho Vista, where Valvoline's going in, the Mark Roberts property, into the Montessori School. It's about 2,000 feet. That cost roughly is anywhere from $1.5 to $2 million. It's not only the cost of the project, but the cost of the easements. We would then work with those property owners to also make the connections. Again, as we're asking the property owner for Corridor Oaks, we would ask those same property owners, Valvoline and the Schertz Auto Care, to make similar connections. And then Rancho Vista as well. I mean, all of those properties would fall under the same requirements. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I believe the Schertz Automotive actually had that same issue that we are requesting from them when he was building.
That's correct. Schertz Auto Care has a current septic system. If once the line is extended to that point, they would be required upon failure or other requirements, but would be required to make that connection as well. The same with Valvoline.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Dalla.
Can you go back to the slide that's a little closer image of the Walgreens property and Corridor Oaks?
That's the Walgreens.
Yeah, there we go. So we mentioned that the UDC requires to run the sewer line all the way across the property. And with the Walgreens property, obviously that is not there. So was that a UDC requirement when Walgreens developed?
It was. The Walgreens actually extended the sewer this way and met that requirement in development. So they extended their sewer all the way down here to these properties here.
So I guess my question then would be why would it go that direction instead of down 1103 when that development there, that building behind Walgreens, that mini storage wasn't in existence yet, but the Corridor Oaks property was?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. The decision in the development, I don't know if staff's ready to speak to that. That predates many of us, but the decision was in that development to go the other direction, this way.
I mean, that's really the part that I'm struggling with on that, is that it seems like that, yeah, he's within 500 feet, and that's a requirement. But, you know, we always talk about being fair, too. And that part of it, I wouldn't see it being a major problem, you know, for us to assist with that somehow, to some degree, but certainly not from his property line across the rest of 1103. He would have to be responsible for that.
Yes, sir. And I believe the city did try to work with him. The city actually procured the easement for an amount of $34,000 in working with the property owner. So really it would just be the actual installation of the sewer system at that point. So kind of met in the middle there.
All right. That's all I have.
Hey, Council, any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, I'd like to know how much the installation of the line would be.
We don't have a full calculation, but we believe it's about $50,000. Are you talking about just this 291 feet?
Well, that's on Walgreens. Who's paying for the Walgreens?
That's what I'm saying. We've already purchased the easement across that Walgreens front for $34,000. To put the sewer system in itself, the pipe, it would be, we think, is about $50,000.
Okay, so going from there to Corridor Oaks would be another 100 some odd feet? 120, 150?
So that 291 feet, that's what we're saying is about 50,000.
Okay, that
takes it to this point right here, which is Corridor Oaks.
And then going through the Corridor Oaks, because it is going all the way down 1103, right?
That's correct.
Right, 2,000
so that
feet.
would be this amount here. Again, the estimate is hard to read, I apologize, but this was quoted at 401 feet right there. So to take it all the way across is that 297,000 that was provided by TxDOT.
So TxDOT paid?
Correct, yes, sir.
For the condemnation of the property itself? Or?
Condemnation, the installation, everything. I mean, based on the engineer's estimate. This was provided by the property owner to the TxDOT.
So are we essentially paying for Walgreens' section and then expecting the property owner to pay for his section?
No, sir. based on what the UDC says, the property owner would pay from that corner of Corridor Oaks across Walgreens to that sewer connection point, because that's within 291 feet, which is less than 500 based on our code.
I tend to agree with Councilmember Dollar. There seems to be something a little bit unfair about that proposal there. I don't see where the property owner should be required to build across the Walgreens property in addition to his own.
Well, we purchased the easement, so it's ours now. I mean, we were trying to work with the property owner at the time, and again, this predates me, but we the city, purchased the easement for $34,000 roughly, and then the property owner was to put the sewer system in. Instead of bearing the whole cost, which would have been about, what, $84,000?
Okay. Oh, okay, so you got the easement there.
That's correct.
So all the piping and whatnot comes to the tune of about 80 some odd thousand, and 30,000 of that has already been paid.
Yes, sir.
And you want the property owner now to cover the other 50,000.
That's correct.
That's right, so the question really is a policy question. He has been reimbursed full amount, and so it's right for the city of Schertz to pay that $50,000. Part of that will be good. But we're going to ask the citizens of Schertz to pay that.
Okay, the way I read this is the 340,000 came from the condemnation of the property and doing away with the leach field. That's what the 340,000 was for, not.
Yeah, but you mentioned there was 401 feet on that invoice somewhere. Where's
Right.
the other 291 feet that there is going to be required of him? He didn't get compensated for the expense of that because his development's pre-existing everything that's out there.
That's right. He did not get compensated for the 291 feet. That's correct. He got compensated for the 401 feet, which is the 297, and the engineering costs that are associated with it, and the construction cost. So that is this part. The 401 feet, fully compensated for that.
And I have no argument with that. That's a requirement, and that's, something that we require of everybody to hook up with the sewer.
That's correct. And we also, I'm sorry, Councilman.
But the 291 feet is an additional expense, and yes, if it was a new developer coming in and he had to do it, but per UDC, then absolutely, he's going to have to pay it if he wants to build. But again, my point is that development predates everything out there except the convenience store on the corner. And I think because if he did not get compensated from TxDOT for that 291 feet, that if we're going to require it, that I think it's on us to take care of.
Yes, Councilmember Whitaker.
I'm trying to catch up. I feel like I'm a little bit behind. So property owner of, it's Corridor Oaks, correct?
Correct.
Is fine with taking care of his property, so the line will go in there. The dispute is whether or not he should continue it through the Walgreens property, that you've acquired that easement, but you need the line to continue to connection.
Yes, ma'am. I don't want to speak for the property owner. I believe there's actually two disputes. One is, as you said, the 291 feet for us to take that from the connection point to Corridor Oaks. Okay. I think there was also part of his, the request in the letter to council was for the city to put this 401 feet in as well. And again, I don't.
I never said that.
Okay. Then the dispute is over the installation.
The 291
feet.
Yeah. No, So when I was negotiating with TxDOT, I tried to get that because I knew it was coming, and they said, no, we don't buy property on for other people's property. We just handle this. This was due to an environmental crisis also. So I'm not wanting to do it. I would have rather just been like I was. But, there's an environmental crisis, which the city of Schertz, previous administrations just neglected. Cibolo Valley Baptist Church had an issue. Their septic actually did fail. The city would not let them build a septic, and they made them give property to them or whatever. They would not allow the septic to be built. And the church came up with money. They did engineering. Yes, sir.
We need to stick directly to the issue because you're bringing up other property owners. We're concerned with your property and your property only.
Okay.
The question was whether or not you got compensated for the property that's taken to build the sewer line, and I believe that was on
right.
one of the.
They paid me for 401 feet.
But they also reimbursed you for the property. I think it was $40,000.
They bought 10 feet of land.
Okay, so you got reimbursed for your property.
Yeah, 10 feet of land.
That was a question that they asked.
I got 10 feet of land and some inches, and for the 401 feet of my property from one end to the other, from the Walgreens boundary line, and it continues on 291 feet. They didn't cover that. They wouldn't cover that.
But that's not your property.
It's not my property.
So you're not asking for reimbursement for that property. That was the question that was asked, whether or not you got reimbursed for your property.
Yeah,
you did.
for my land.
Okay.
For 10 feet of my 401 feet of frontage, for 401 feet of construction from my boundary line to the other boundary, which I'm required to take.
So the only question then is the 291.
Right.
That's
responsibility. Right.
That's what the question was, and your answer was no.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, when they asked you, was there anything else besides the 291?
Yes,
You said
there is. There's compensation for the land. I went to...
wait. Hold on.
Yes, for providing property, I'm platted. If somebody wants land, they can't just take it. They can take it up the street all the way because they're not platted. They have to do that in the platting process. They can take what they like, just like they took the land from Walgreens, between me and Walgreens, that the city has a real desire to obtain. And then so when I asked Jim Hooks, I said, I went to Walgreens and found out the owner. He could not find the owner of the property to buy the easement. I helped him buy the easement. I located, worked to find it, provided it to Jim, and then he bought the land and said, well, if you want compensation for your land, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to quit. And I'm like, what? And so
So you're asking for compensation for the land and the 291, okay.
They want 25 feet. First they wanted 16 years past, then they wanted, and that's a big story.
Okay.
A big story. And then they wanted 16 feet, then I understand I went to 20, then I understand I went to 25. They just want to take it.
Okay. I think the question was answered. Am I correct?
That was my question. I was asking about, where the dispute was, whether it's, and so you're saying they purchased 10 feet, but they want 25 feet.
Right, and TxDOT told me that we allow the city to do whatever they want in our right-of-way. They have the complete control to put whatever utilities they want in our TxDOT right-of-way. So that's what I was counting on. And so, I have been harassed by, you wouldn't believe it, I don't sleep at night. In past years, I wasn't required to hook up. They insisted I wasn't. They sent letters, city did, we're going to disconnect your water in 90 days. Marshals running out there, you can't do this, you can't do that. I had every right to maintain my system. And then, again, 90 days later, you're going to cut your water off. I'm used to this. So, I've been witness and victim for many, many years. Probably the only one here that's familiar with all that except Jim. And he's at the helm of a lot of this because he's seen it. He's seen the city come after me and try to bankrupt me. And they're following his lead. So, and it's a bad one.
Okay, I think your question was answered. Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions?
Charles, can you clarify for me if...
Yes.
taking the 291 feet out of the picture for right now, talking about the 25-foot easement
Okay.
that he's looking compensation for. When that sewer line goes in, will it go in within the TxDOT right-of-way, or will it be outside the TxDOT?
No,
right?
it's a 16-foot easement is actually what the requirement. We asked for a 20-foot temporary construction, which is what we do.
Okay, so we're looking for
But it will go in 16 foot.
16 feet wide by 401 feet long.
Yeah.
And the sewer line would go within that rectangle?
Correct.
Okay. So when we go through planning and zoning in the platting process, we require the developers to dedicate that easement as part of the process.
That's correct.
Again, like Mr. Khan said, he's already platted. If I'm correct, I'm sure you verified that.
Yep.
So how do we have the ability to force him to hand that over without compensation?
So I'd have to defer the force to Dan. Maybe, bro.
Where's the graphic, Charles? Yeah, this is probably good. This is sufficient. So, yeah, the issue is when you construct a public line, piece of public infrastructure, a water line, a sewer line, a city street, you're required to dedicate the easement or the right-of-way associated with that. You can't have a public line that's not in an easement. So again, the issue is when Mr. Khan, as a result of the TxDOT right-of-way take that's impacted his septic field, now says, all right, well, I don't have a septic field, I need to connect to sewer. He's required, as Charles noted, to extend that all the way across his property, and as part of, to serve the next guy downstream. Standard thing you see all the time. And you have to provide an easement for that. So again, you're right. Normally, if you're already platted, this issue doesn't come up where you're having to build a line across your property. As you probably see from P&Z experience, often we'll have one property owner want to build infrastructure across an undeveloped. To do that, they've got to acquire that easement and they've got to compensate for it. In this case, it's not an upstream property owner wanting to build across Mr. Khan. It's Mr. Khan wanting to extend the sewer as a result of the right-of-way take from TxDOT that he was compensated for, and to do that needs to extend across his property and then has to provide the easement associated with it. So in some ways, I certainly understand his point. Hey, I'm already platted, I shouldn't have to do this. I think that's too much of a blanket statement. Certainly when you come in and plat for the first time, you have to provide that easement, but you may want to make changes to your property that prompt you to have to do other things. You may come in to do other things, whether it's provide an easement or, for example, when Lisa left, the tire store that just went in at the Garden Ridge, the side of the Garden Ridge site, they were required to close a number of drive approaches. So occasionally when you come in after the fact, things trigger. And so it's the construction, Mr. Khan constructing that line, he's required to dedicate the easement. And we made that clear to him up on the front end, as I recall, and it could be proven wrong, Jimmy could correct me, prior to him closing his deal with TxDOT that knew, and I believe, as I recall, the points of disagreement were when you build that, you have to provide an easement for it because it's a public line, and you have to extend it all the way across your property. And that's where the conversation broke down, if that helps.
I guess to regurgitate that in different words is, we're looking at this more as a redevelopment of an existing lot and having to bring it up to the current standard.
That's exactly right. And so when someone comes in and says, hey, I want to do something else with my property, that triggers things. So his wanting to construct that sewer line, obviously because he wants to have sewer for his development and keep it going, that triggers the need to extend across the property and provide an easement for it. Otherwise, it's not a public line. We can't get to it to fix it. It's part of what comes with the territory.
So you're saying that he's got to provide an easement, therefore that should not be compensated because it's a requirement for him to provide it?
That's right. That's right. Just like, again, you may recall, we talked about it, the Mark Roberts project, the Valvoline project that I think goes to P&Z tomorrow night, they all want to develop versus redevelop, and they have to provide that easement. Mr. Khan, wanting to construct the sewer line, has to provide the easement. Otherwise, what we get into as the city is a property owner coming in and saying, hey, I want to do this thing to benefit myself, build a water line or sewer line, things like that. But city, you need to pay for part of that, i.e. the easement for that to be in, so that you can then bear the expense to maintain that over time. And so again, developers pay their own way as it goes, and part of what comes with that is providing those easements, and the same thing occurs in a redevelopment setting as well. Property owners will come in and redevelop, and they may have to make those improvements as well.
And the fact is that this whole issue was triggered by TxDOT, something that we have no control over.
And I think that's the position of staff, that, you know, these conversations have gone on for quite a while. We have known for a long time, because we were involved in it. TxDOT came out, they talked to the property owners, they talked to both us and Cibolo about this project coming forward. We looked at the various designs. We understood what the impacts of that were. And so I'll look to Jimmy. I believe on this project, we had to bear the expense of relocating some of our lines as well. So again, I'm on the one hand, it may not seem that way. I'm empathetic to Mr. Khan because our infrastructure was in the way, and probably Councilman Davis, being on a while, may recall where we came forward for council approval to acquire easements, to put our new infrastructure in, to provide for a contractor, to relocate that infrastructure. So the city, in some ways, was impacted similarly to Mr. Khan. And so one of the issues is, that's the challenge, or the drawback of putting your infrastructure in TxDOT's right-of-way. You put your infrastructure in TxDOT's right-of-way, their answer is, hey, we need to improve the road, you need to pay to move your infrastructure. That's why we have easements, to avoid those conflicts. But my point was, everyone knew this, should have known the impacts for a long time. And I think part of staff's position is, from the various conversations Jimmy had with Mr. Khan, I had with Mr. Khan, Dudley had with Mr. Khan, there was awareness of what the requirements were, what the impacts were, and folks consider that when they reach agreement for right-of-way acquisition. It's not just the value of the land, it's the damages to the property that's part of that as well. Again, if you've got somebody who's got an undeveloped piece of land, I just need 10 feet across the front, I've got 70 feet back to my house, it's really, you're just getting the value of the land. But for instance, the kind of prime example is, if it's an already developed site and you're taking out a row of parking, then there's that damage cost, and if that's all the parking that they have, it's a more significant cost. Same thing with billboards, we've seen that before. And so I think from staff's perspective, everybody knew this, everyone could make informed decisions, and so I think part of the position is, it's not double dipping on this. I think we have had a practice that, hey, if we miss something, somebody, a private owner, shouldn't have to bear that cost, and we've stepped in and paid for that. In this case, the belief is that the taxpayers have already paid for that with the damages for the right-of-way take, and there's no reason for the city to bear the expense. Additionally, I think the city's position was, and Jimmy and I had these conversations, hey, look, it's not fair to make him try to go get an easement that he can't necessarily get at the end of the day. If the property owner doesn't want to sell it to him, they don't have to sell it to him. So we are the only ones that have the power to get that, so we need to step up and we need to pay and we need to acquire those easements because we missed it. So I think we try to operate in that fair system, but the flip side is, we don't want to be taken advantage of and pay everything for everybody. Developers, folks who redevelop, have to pay their own way, and that's our view on this, with him having to make those infrastructure improvements. But again, yeah, the reason we acquired the easement across Walgreens is because he didn't have the ability to do it. That didn't seem fair. So Jimmy spent quite a bit of time going back and forth, hearing from me, chewing on him, to get that easement, because we wanted to make sure that that was in place to allow folks time to build that infrastructure and not be jammed up because we didn't do our part. And Jimmy did a good job of that, to his credit.
All right, Thank you for the explanation. Mr. Khan, would you like to make, would you, please?
The city's been trying to get that land from me for a long time. In the back, I've got 20 pages of evidence of that. They have not treated me fairly. They bought the easement from Walgreens. Why did they do that? The city needs that for their infrastructure. That's why they bought it. They were required to buy that. They bought that. They have to treat me fairly and buy mine just the same way they did them. That's just equal protection and equal justice. And the city has, and I can go on, the city has done a lot of bad things. They told the health department that I failed. I did not fail and proved it, but yet they prosecuted me criminally in municipal court to try to get me shut down. And they did it, you know, and then they just gave up. And then it just goes on and on and on. They want that property. Do you know what's going to happen with that city street that's going to go in? Do you know what that's all about? Or is that just still hidden?
Well, before you go on, Mr. Khan, do you have a specific question for Mr. Khan, Councilmember Dalla?
No, I just saw him. It looked like he wanted to make some additional comments.
Nobody wants to discuss that.
Well, the issue at hand is two items that we're addressing. I don't want to go back in 2006.
Does the city need my property for their own sewer line? Yes, they do. They have to service everybody uphill. They need my property. I've been the one stopping them. So that's why they can't, that's why they're doing septic tanks. Oh, we're going to take your property in the, what do you call that, platting process, but we're also going to have you put in septic tanks. What's that all about? That even Valvoline guy, he's going to like, hey, I can't even deal with the city because I got to put in a septic tank. I got to get my property in the platting process. I think I'm just going to sell and get out of here. And then same thing with the church. On the same Guadalupe side.
Just a moment.
The city said you can't build it.
I understand where you're trying to go here, but
all about knocking me out.
But we have to deal with your situation. I don't think you're in the position to represent Walgreens as to what we did with Walgreens or the church.
There's a lot of motive.
Well, but we need to stick to your issue.
I would like to, but it goes. He can talk for 15 minutes and just talk around it, addressing the issue.
We need to address just your particular issue. And now, from what I understand, is the Walgreens property was purchased because the gentleman can't connect to it unless somebody purchased the...
It was purchased because they failed to do it at another time.
But by purchasing it, it gave him the implication that we should purchase his. I think that's part of my understanding here.
Yeah, they should. They should. Absolutely, they should. This is for the city of Schertz water line. And when you're platted, you can't just go in and take property. TxDOT says, we got it. You're in our line. You take our property. You can do anything you want in our property. We're not buying property for the city of Schertz. If the city of Schertz needs property, that's their expense. That's what TxDOT told me.
Okay.
I don't know why that doesn't stand. Why are you not putting the line under those sidewalks? Because you know why? It's more expensive. If they do widen the road, it's for the city of Schertz benefit that they don't. They should, but they don't. TxDOT allows it, but the city of Schertz won't do it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Khan.
You.
Yes, Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, believe it or not, I was around in 2011 when they were talking about the road, and that would have destroyed your property back then. This particular stretch here, compensated for 10 feet by TxDOT. I don't want to say anything unfactual. And oh, by the way, I can't say anything that'll obligate the city. So I got to be real careful in how we phrase things. But TxDOT did pay for the 10 feet, right? Yes. We're needing an extra 6 feet, 16 feet. How much?
No, it's 16 is total.
Okay, so we got so quite frankly, that's another 6 feet of property. And you know what?
There's a big issue. They're going to go through the middle of my property, not along the road, to my understanding. They're going on into my property, then take 16 feet. It's not like they got the 10 feet, now I need 6. We're going way over here and taking that.
Is this drawn to
part of the
scale?
construction, the property owner provides the easement, so that once it's put in the ground. That's typical.
I can't hear you.
Sorry. So as part of the construction process, the easement's provided because it's a public utility at that point.
And where is it going specifically?
Right, approximately where that line is.
Okay, approximately where that line is,
Yes,
which
because,
is
I mean,
right through the leach field, isn't it?
That's correct. That's why
So
the whole...
essentially, the leach field will be destroyed
That's correct.
if this goes through.
That's correct. That's the impetus of the whole problem.
And what bothers me is because the leach field is being destroyed, it's kind of like a do loop that we're stuck in. You gotta hook it up to the sewer system now because you don't have a leach field.
That's correct.
Now, I don't know why this hasn't been elevated to one of the other boards and commissions to take a look at this, because I'm not a lawyer, but I hate to use the word hardship.
So that's why when he went to TxDOT awarded so that he could put the line in.
10 feet they used for the road. The TxDOT doesn't care about sewers, to the best of my knowledge, unless the city's got to move the sewers, the city has to move the electricity, the city has to do this. TxDOT just needs the space available to put the road in, not the utilities and things. I just don't understand. It seems to me that this is a platted subdivision as it is. You are putting a pipeline through the property that will, in effect, reduce the property value of the property itself because it doesn't have a sewer system now. Okay, so to fix that, okay, how about paying to put the sewer line in? Well, hold on a second. I don't know enough about the construction process to actually have a good feeling about where this is going. I really don't. So I don't even have a suggestion except to sit down and let's figure out if something can be done. I mean, the city does sit down with developers all the time. And Mr. Khan isn't even a developer. He's an established property owner in the city. And quite frankly, we need to sit down and have a powwow together to figure out what can be done. What is fair? How about this? How about if I throw it out there? Whenever you have a discussion, you always look for a reasonable outcome. So, Mayor, would you mind if I actually asked for an expectation on how this thing could be resolved?
Well, I think we're looking at two different issues, and I think if we address the two different issues separately, it would be much easier to come to a consensus as to how we're going to approach this. One is the 291 feet, and the other one will be the compensation for the additional land that's needed. I think that will be the best way to approach this, is because we can go on and on with arguing one or the other, and just addressing each one individually will be the best approach. So what are your suggestions, Councilmember?
So I'd like to know, what is it we're suggesting? If I may ask Mr. Khan, what is your expectations? What would you like to see happen come out of this? Could you step up to the mic, please?
My expectations, which I've been demonstrating for a very, very long time, are for the 200 to bring the Walgreens sewer to the boundary line, which is the city of Schertz expectation for their own selves and everybody else. And then also for the reimbursement, or to take 16 feet of land. I'm glad to hear it's only 16 feet. I mean, really, if they do that, and I agree to that, that would even be a bargain for the city, because everything from that 16 feet that far in, from there to way over here, I got 16 feet. What do I do with the rest of it? It's like a bowling alley. So if I were to agree for 16 feet, that would be very, I would say, gracious on my part. 16 feet and the 291 feet to my community.
And then you'd still have to put in the lines and stuff to hook up to that.
Here's another problem. This has been delayed so long. My contractor's like, hey, and I wrote the city this letter, that we need to do something and do it quick, because my contractor, he's got other jobs. And he's just taken off on them. He said, if I got to meet with the city sometime between, this was about a month, after December, after November, I can't do it anymore. I got to go do another job, and I got to order materials, and I got to schedule the crews. So right now, I'm stretched. He's stretched. So I might have to get different bids, or maybe I'll go, I don't know.
Let's work on two resolutions, one for the 16 feet and then the other one for the additional 291. I just think it would be very difficult to come with a consensus, and I think we'll break it up between one and the other.
I think it comes right down to money also. What's the bottom line for cost?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, sir.
Well, TxDOT compensated $11 and some change per square foot is what they compensated for the 10 feet. So I would imagine somewhere in that range. I understand there's been higher values, but I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, let's work on that. Yes, Councilmember Whitaker.
If we're going to look at it closer, I think having a clear diagram of that property and exactly like where the lines are as far as what we're talking about.
Jill, can you see that on your screen?
Yes, I can
See that red line?
the red line.
Yeah, that's closest to the houses.
Yes.
Okay, that's where the 16 feet they're talking, and the yellow line is where the TxDOT boundary is.
Okay, well, I want to see that from the city. I would like to see that, like a blueprint type diagram with, distances and
The location of the pipes.
So everyone's on the same page. This is the area. And also, this is what will happen in this area. This is what can happen afterwards for, like you were talking about during the construction process, needing access to some things. Then once the construction process is over, what's left, what's an easement, what's not, that kind of thing. So I think that would be helpful in understanding, what we're talking about, what feet we're referring to.
And that would be very beneficial for the city if I was willing to do that, take 16 feet, because it's in line with everything else for the city sewer system. They need that, because if they don't have that, they're going to have to squirrel tail all around it. It doesn't flow uphill, it just goes downhill.
Pardon,
sir?
6 extra feet, not 16.
Can you clarify?
Oh, if you can go along the street, that would be fine. But, see, if you can go along that yellow line, the TxDOT's got 10 feet there. You've got to take the water line. But you've got 10 feet there, and if you come out another 6 feet, I don't know that you're going to be able to pick up.
Can I just
Councilmember Davis.
the part that's really sticking in my mind is you were compensated from TxDOT
Yes, sir.
for a 10-foot easement
Yes, sir.
along the frontage of your property.
That easement, well, yeah.
You were compensated for a 10-foot easement along the front of your property.
Yes, sir.
Okay? That 10-foot buffer that they needed is part of the entire project to widen 1103, correct?
Correct, sir.
Because on the other side, they're going up towards those houses. I mean, this is going to be 5 lanes. So on your side, where the existing road is now, or would TxDOT already compensated you for 10 feet? Because it's coming 10 feet into your property.
Right.
The city only needs another 6 feet to accommodate the sewer line.
If you can make that work, hallelujah. I think that's great, because...
I just want to make sure I understand that, right?
Because when you stand at the edge of that Walgreens fence and you look straight up, it just goes straight up to the other sewer lines. Now you're going to come down, and I don't care, it's your business. But if you come down and then you do this...
I just want to make sure that if you were compensated from TxDOT for 10 feet as part of the widening project, that there's no prohibition from us, or there's no requirement from the city for another 16 feet off the TxDOT line. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
But right here, if you can see, so it's not 16 feet times 401 linear feet. It's 6 feet times.
Correct.
They want to add another 6 feet onto what TxDOT's already. Pardon? Apparently it is.
So right here is the connection point. If I can keep the mouse. If you follow that sidewalk, that's where that current line would go.
Again, that's Walgreens. Right, but to Mr. Khan's point, it'll be continued straight. Okay, you're not worried about
That's Walgreens. I'm not worried about the Walgreens line. I'm worried about the property that Mr. Khan owns to widen 1103 and adjust the utilities. He's losing a portion of his property. And what we're saying is he's been reimbursed for some of that. Well, where did I go wrong?
So let me clarify one thing, and then I'll hit that point. So hold that last thought. So to be clear, TxDOT needed 10 feet of right-of-way, roughly.
Right.
We need, the city, if Mr. Khan is going to build a sewer line, that requires a 16-foot easement. So from the current right-of-way line, you've got the TxDOT additional 10-foot take, and then if there's a sewer line, that needs another 16 feet of easement.
That's the clarification I was looking for.
That's right. Now
So I mean, my point is it's kind of hard looking at this, a Google Maps thing with lines drawn on it, versus the schematic that shows the existing property boundaries, the proposed boundaries for the new widened 1103 with the easements on that.
Yes, sir.
So in this particular case, to widen 1103, TxDOT needs a certain amount of real estate, which included 10 feet of his property. Now, beyond that, we're saying the sewer line needs an additional 16 feet.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Not only that, you can make a bowling alley out of the rest of the properties. I'm willing to, I wanted to,
Okay. Yeah, I think we need to write two different resolutions and not just one. It'd be much easier to process one at a time and see how they're, I think that will be the consensus here, because we're mixing them together will just cause a little more confusion.
Okay.
And then we'll bring it up to council. Okay.
very much.
Mayor,
As you can see, it is very confusing. Yes, I'm sorry, Councilmember Hayward.
I don't know if this is possible. Is it, instead of a resolution, can we do another workshop just on the 16 feet and then a resolution on the 291, so that way they're broken apart and then we get into the weeds of it instead of a resolution?
Let's do that then, because there is still quite a bit of confusion. Let's do another workshop with the schematics clear so that we can see exactly what we're seeing.
Mayor,
Okay.
would it be possible to even have a small working group do this? We don't have to do it into an open mic on a council meeting night, because I think there's some things that we have in common, and we're just talking around the commonalities and focusing on the differences. I recall when the folks up in Fairhaven had problems with their developer. We sat down and we discussed it. I don't know what could come out of it, but I think it'd be much more productive in a small group working together than to try to hash it out here into an open mic.
I would agree. Ad hoc committee would probably be an easier way to get this taken care of.
Okay. We'll get a couple of council members that want to be on this.
I will offer my services.
Anybody else?
I'd like to be.
Okay. So we'll have Councilmember Whitaker, Councilmember Dalla, and Councilmember Scagliola, so that the illustrations are provided so that we can get unconfused. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes. That will work. That was pretty complicated. It is very complicated. Yeah. All right. We'll continue then with the roll call confirmation. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide roll call confirmation for consent agenda items 1 and 3 through 9 and discussion items number 2 and 10.
Yes, consent agenda items 1 and 3 through 9. Motion was made by Councilmember Dawes, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dawes, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 2, ordinance number 20S41 on final reading. Motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Scott, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 10, ordinance number 20T39 on final reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to agenda items number 15, which is the update on library projects. Agenda item number 16 is the monthly update on our major projects in progress and capital improvement projects. And item number 17 is information on the 2021 master calendar and boards and commissions. These are all information packets that were provided to council and available for public view. So we'll move on to requests and announcements. Announcements by our city manager, Dr. Brown. Okay. Council, any possible updates or information requested from staff? Council, any items you'd like to place on future agenda items? None? All right. Then we'll continue with announcements by council members. We'll go begin with Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
I thought the lighting of the tree was really nice, but it was rather blustery, and I felt sorry for Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Brown with only a sport coat. It was so cold. And I regrettably missed the festivities on Saturday from being ill. I'm so sorry. I bet it was fantastic. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Whitaker.
I'd just like to report that I have finished the ACOG elected officials workshop and the Texas Municipal League newly elected city official training, so I've been working through that. Also attended the tree lighting and the holodazzle, which was lovely despite the weather, but my little guy loved the little slide thing there at the end when it was cold and frozen over. I think it was great, so thanks.
Councilmember Dalla.
Yeah, it was a fun week to get in the Christmas spirit, starting out with the tree lighting ceremony. Stopped in on the Breakfast with Santa sessions, and in between I walked across to the Kris Kringle Market and got some Christmas shopping done. Went down to the Schertz Main Street Market, got a little bit more shopping done there, happened to run into Councilman Davis over there, and then I went to the parade at Saturday night, so good times.
Okay, Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to the city staff and the employees, you know, with everything that's been canceled lately. There was, yeah, it would have been almost justified to cancel this. I was so appreciative of the staff to decide not to. It turned out to be a wonderful event. Thank you so very much. That's all I have, sir.
Councilmember Hayward.
Yes, I attended a ribbon cutting downtown on Main Street for Flawless Spa Retreat, and then I attended a ribbon cutting in Selma that was Venice Homes. I really enjoyed that. Doing the Christmas tree lighting, I think that was a great event. I like the way that we didn't have to rush back into council and have a council meeting, so I think that was a neat idea. And lighting up all the buildings, I just look forward to more lights years to come. Did the Breakfast with Santa and got to take a picture with Santa, and went to the market and then did the parade. And I also have some news. I was nominated by Bennett Sandlin from TML to be on the TMRS Advisory Committee on the benefit design, and I was approved by the TMRS Board of Trustees, so now I will be serving on the Advisory Board for Benefit Designs in TMRS.
All right, Councilmember Brown.
Again, I have to echo Councilman Scagliola. Thank you to the city employees and staff. The place looked really good. Had a lot of fun out there. And for this bah humbug kind of guy, I felt pretty good. So, thank you.
My remarks, thanks to our city staff, for the tree lighting ceremony. That was beautiful, and the parade. It actually brought the Christmas spirit into our city. And my Christmas message is, may your holiday spirit shine bright. Christmas is a feeling in your heart. Christmas is the best time of the year. So let the spirit of the season fill your hearts and your home. Merry Christmas from our council to our residents. It is now 9 p.m. We stand adjourned.